Good morning and welcome to the SMITE Pro League, the final day of phase number 1. My name's Tom Baddinger. I'll be your host for this afternoon. Joining me is going to be illustrious analyst Anatoly Alexeyev. How you doing, buddy?
Feeling really good on this fantastic Friday. It's always a great Friday whenever you have two titans such as Zapman and BaRRaCCuDDa battling at it.
It's fun watching Space Station Gaming and SK Gaming kind of battle it out. Now, mid-season invitational might be a little bit out of reach. Let's take a look at the standings so I can prove it to you. Here are the teams here towards the bottom end of the middle, 7 and 8. So unfortunately, we won't see them at the MSI.
No, definitely not. Space Station Gaming faltering yesterday against Renegades. Their fate was still in their hands. If they found the set victory yesterday, they would have to win today to make it to MSI, but coming short yesterday means that it's just going to be a little fun matchup today.
That said, these all the games still matter because I said phase 1, not split 1. That terminology very important because phase 1 and phase 2 are all part of the same season. This isn't just 4 weeks of competition to see who's number 1 for a couple of weeks. This is a whole year-long marathon, so these teams absolutely still fighting for the win. Space Station, these guys have made some changes. Cyno in the jungle. We've seen them play like that for a little while. What's your take on the team?
Well, so far with Cyno, he hasn't been the saving grace that Space Station need out of him. With him, they've been 0-2. 2-3 against Splice, 0-3 against Renegades. Not a great start, but it's a long-term investment that they're trying to boost their morale, boost their shot calling with andinster stepping down from the jungle, going into the mid position. They need that leadership. Maybe that's what Cyno brings, but time still needs to tell us that.
The leadership and the shot calling is what the squad had lacked, but what they didn't lack is just the all-out ability to find the kills and play SMITE. This team has looked a little bit better. Everyone individually, BaRRaCCuDDa most notably, has been really performing in that long lane. The Hunter has really provided a lot of damage for his team, and at times it seemed like the team just leans on him in that late game. Sometimes BaRRa wins the game simply because he needs to.
And honestly, if Space Station learned anything from the last set against Renegades, you gotta respect the magical ADCs.
Absolutely.
When they gave Funballer and Dardas the Kronos and the Freya, that was their ultimate downfall until they finally switched it up a little bit. And against SK Gaming, both Paul and Zap love the Kronos. Zap can easily play the Freya. They need to have a different style going into picks and bans today.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that BaRRa plays the Jing Wei really well, and while you don't want to play Jing Wei into Kronos, Jing Wei into the Freya, you can dash out of the whoop at least. So
sure.
That's a character that he likes to lean on right there. So we'll see which way BaRRaCCuDDa decides to go, if he wants to go the magical route like we've seen a lot of the players go, or if he's going to stick to the tried and true kind of hunters that he's always really brought out. But as far as I'm concerned, this carry has been a very, very kind of big part of what Space Station has been able to do.
Definitely agree with you there. I want to see something a little bit spicy out of him. Maybe not too aggressive, but the old school style. Maybe bring out the old Artemis or the Muzen Cobb if it's still available. We say how popular it is now, but when it was first introduced in the Pro League, BaRRaCCuDDa was playing it the most on its release.
Yeah, nobody else was really messing with the B-God just so early.
Or Cupid.
Yeah.
Cupid.
Across the way. You're talking Cupid already. Okay, I see where you're going. SK Gaming, the opponent across the way. Cupid, it's a Zapman staple, but probably the worst character to play in that role. I don't think we're going to see it.
Not.
But I like the little illusion of Zapman there, because Zapman obviously going head-to-head with BaRRa.
Yes, and this is a historical matchup between the two. Since Season 1, not including launch tournament, they've battled against each other 45 times, both offline and on LAN. And Zapman not getting the better end of it, BaRRaCCuDDa winning 25 of those 45 games.
We're talking carries, but next to the carries are those supports. It's JeffHindla. It's his birthday. Let's see what he's got to say.
Here now with Space Station support, JeffHindla. And Jeff, first things first, gotta say, a big happy birthday, and I'd really appreciate it. Mixer Chat could back me up on this one too. But how are you feeling today coming in for your set against SK as the birthday boy?
I'm feeling very confident. It's birthday luck. No problem.
What do you think are, well, let me just start over, actually. Yesterday, we kind of saw part 1, and I know that that was a little bit of a disappointment for the team. So moving forward, how does that start today with SK?
Yeah, so we know SK probably watched, so they're probably going to try and do something similar. So we pretty much prepared for what went wrong yesterday and like how to correct that. And we're just going to do our best moving forward.
What do you think are going to be some of the more troublesome factors over there on SK Gaming for you guys today?
Probably just hyper early aggression. I think that's really the only thing they're going to try and do.
Well, I know that we're all really excited to see you guys get into the action. I'm sure you guys are pretty excited yourselves, so I wish you guys the best of luck today in your set against SK, and we'll get it back over to you guys on the desk.
Thanks a lot there, Taco. Good to see Jeff as always, and high spirits. Sounds like the team really just trying to put yesterday's match behind them and go one by one. Because again, the teams don't need the reiteration, but just for everybody out there, it's a marathon. These games, MSI is different, but November 8 High-Res Expo. Everybody's still trying to get there. That's what it all matters about.
I mean, Jeff's a seasoned veteran player. He's been through it all, the ups and the downs. It's a roller coaster of emotions. So he's already forgotten about the Renegades set. And now moving forward towards SK Gaming, moving forward towards the dual lane of NeilMah and Zapman.
So looking at what's going on there in that dual lane, NeilMah has been somebody that I've been talking a lot. His kind of instincts have been really strong. And the way that he's combined with Zapman over there has been really nice. Because a lot of the times we see the carries kind of by themselves, but when the supports do roll over, it's some real nice synergy between the two of them.
And something that Jeff alluded to was the hyper early aggression from SK Gaming. It's not going to be coming out of Zapman in particular. He's going to be farming and waiting to the late game, but out of NeilMah is where that hyper early aggression comes from. Playing gods like the Hercules is something that he's been bringing out recently, as has Aurora, and that's something that Space Station Gaming probably has taken note of and needs to adapt to today.
I forgot that Zapman had played the Soul. Previously, it really just been Zeros and Funball that had brought this character out. And I was asking about it. I'm curious to see if we'll see some more Soul. Right here, Zapman even just gets out of trouble sometimes that he shouldn't, so very, very slippery. We'll see what he's able to do here. Similar KDA to the man across from him on the BaRRaCCuDDa. So, like you said, this is a storied matchup. We've been watching it for how many years now?
Oh, forever. Since the beginning of time. Since when I used to play, actually, a couple of matches against BaRRaCCuDDa. Yeah.
What's your take on Zap versus BaRRaCCuDDa from the trenches, being on that team? What's your take?
He never really cared about who he was playing against. It was just honestly like another game. It was just like another opponent. There was never really any super rivalry for him. It was more of like the outside scene looking at it, because these are the two most notable charismatic players in the Hunter role, right? Both being in the Hunter role, both having, such high streaming numbers as well back then, and now translating it to today. So not much has changed since then.
Fan favorites for sure, and these guys have been around for a long time, the veterans of the league, but no league is complete without some new blood either. Sam and Paul kind of made their step last year. Sam, talking about the game.
Here now with SK Gaming's jungler, Sam for Soccer. And Sam, first things first, it's been a little bit since we've had a chance to see SK play. How are you guys feeling heading into this set today?
I don't know, I guess we're feeling fine. We're a bit disappointed because no chance to make MSI, right? So, but we're feeling fine aside from that, I guess, yeah.
And big story over on the other side is that it's JeffHindla's birthday. What is SK planning on giving the birthday boy today?
I don't know. Not really sure. Well, Roddy says kill him, but I guess hopefully some losses, but I don't know.
I don't know how much of a birthday present that is. I mean,
not the best present. I don't know.
Well, I mean, from the jungler's perspective, though, Season 6 has been a bit of a roller coaster, I think. And how have you been feeling personally, meshing with the team and just learning the Season 6 meta?
I don't know. It's been fine, too, yeah. Nothing too, I don't think it's been changing that much. I guess just the starts, really. That's about it. I guess where people start. But, yeah, it hasn't been too tough, but I guess we haven't done that well, so maybe, I don't know.
Well, last thing I want to ask you, can we expect to see anything crazy coming out of SK today, considering the set not really having too many repercussions outside of you guys maybe wanting some points for Phase 2?
Yeah, probably nothing too crazy, yeah. Like you said, I think for Phase 2, we're just going to try and get the win to better our standings for the World Split. So yeah, probably nothing too insane, I guess, yeah.
Well, sounds like you guys have a game plan for sure. Looking forward to seeing it in action up here against SSG today. Back to you guys on the desk.
Not very confident SK sounding, huh?
Nah, I mean, he said from himself, he was a bit disappointed that they didn't make MSI. And despite having a lackluster performance in the score standings, they still had some really great games. Their very first set against Pittsburgh Knights went 0-3, but it didn't look like an 0-3 game. Going all 5 games with Dignitas, it was very impressive while they were still on that hot winning streak. So there's still a lot of respect and credit you got to give to SK Gaming.
I'm still high on this team. I think they have a lot of what it takes. You look at, again, I don't think there is a correct composition. I don't think there's a correct equation.
I agree.
But SK Gaming, 1 veteran, 2 hot rookies, and the instincts over there in the support role. I mean, there's a lot going for this team that I really like to look at. So I do think there's still a big future. Because again, one thing that really excites me about this is that, when we've looked at seasons past, the splits, you don't get a chance to improve. It's week 3 of a 6-week split, and you're sitting there like, well, if we had more time, I could see where we could fix this jungle situation without even a roster change. Just maybe work on this as a team, work on that as a team. Now it's a 26-week season, and you can come in here halfway and evaluate what went right, what went wrong, sit 3-6, 4-6, and go, all right, well, we can make these adaptations. And for the first time in SMITE history, teams have that opportunity, and I really like that look.
And SK Gaming is a team that's been a little bit swingy in their results, finding victories, 3-0 clean victories against LG, against Trifecta, even Splice, while they were still struggling, Splice still finding that 3-0, but then losing to Rival 0-3, losing to Renegades 0-3. So you can see that SK, they can show up at different times of the day. Like, which SK Gaming is going to show up today against Space Station?
Well, that's the question everybody's kind of got on their minds here, I think, when it comes down to playing against an evenly matched team. That's where the biggest question mark is, because generally SK Gaming are a team that will play up to the stronger teams and maybe wind up just losing at the end of it, play down to the lower end teams and maybe just wind up winning at the end of it. But when you're going head to head against a team like Space Station, a squad that theoretically is on the same level of talent, if not just a little bit lower than you, where does that really wind up for SK?
I think that SK Gaming is going to be kind of throwing curveballs at Space Station Gaming, knowing that they have a more diverse god pool selection. You don't really know where Neil is going to go. Zapman can easily play mages in that dual lane. How is BaRRaCCuDDa going to adapt to that situation? Sam can give you the level 2 gank special if you really wants to, but who knows what Cyno's going to bring on the opposite end.
We're waiting to get into game, just a matter of moments, but you said a name there, and I want to talk about him while we got a chance. This guy right in the middle of your screen, Paul. This was my player to watch last year. He was so damn exciting. His transition from the minor league into the major league really kind of was a question mark for a lot of people, and then he succeeded, not even in the same style. We'll jump into picks and bans here, and to wrap up my question to you is, we haven't seen it here in Season 6. Why?
It's just the different starts. Even Sam was talking about how many different starts there are. So supports started off Season 6 by harassing the jungler, literally sacrificing every bit of farm to deny the jungler any opportunity. Now transitioning into sometimes helping the dual lane in the middle of the Season 6, and then towards the later Season 6 was sticking to the solo lane, controlling that matchup, making sure you're not going to lose the blue buff, maybe squeezing in a couple of extra Totem of Coups, and as a result, Paul hasn't really had much opportunity to do what Paul is known for. He can still easily play the Hobo on the Hell, which he's done, but do you want him to go off like that, or do you want him to just wait till the late game? Because Zap is not rotating because he's not allowed to. It's a 1v1 forever in that dual lane in Season 6.
Team still absolutely respecting Paul. You can see the top bans against SK Gaming have been the Merlin, which is relatively standard, but then Paul's kind of signature Hebo. And so that being banned out kind of shows a little bit that teams are thinking about that mid lane. Space Station this time around, however, will opt for the Freya ban. And then SK with the Hunbats and the Chronos leaving the AMC.
Space Station learning from yesterday's set. You can't give up Chronos and Freya, wanting to make sure SK doesn't get both of them, but instead leaving a great pushing power hunter, a Muzen. Very difficult to contest that kind of push at level 1 compared to any hunter, let alone any mage, because it's still uncertain if that's a Zapman god or if that's going to be a Paul god.
Right now, Space Station, thinking about the Jormungandr, they first pick the selection almost every time. This time they'll switch it up. The Hebo Roland into the picks here.
It makes a lot of sense why Space Station are leaning on this Hobwa pick. Looking at the history of this team, andinster, despite being in mid lane, has played it a bunch in the jungle in the set against Renegades. They banned it away from him, trying to get andinster as uncomfortable as possible, taking that option away from him. But now we'll see what Andy is going to be able to do while BaRRa is going to be playing yet again another safe hunter.
Jing has been kind of the go-to choice here for Space Station Gaming. And so now while they have their carry locked in, Hebo a little bit more ambiguous, SK Gaming looking back to the drawing board. Jormungandr, and I like this choice. One, because Jormungandr is a fine pick in and of itself, but also the old pick as a band. You're taking it away from a team that had prioritized it, as you said, over Kronos and Freya to their detriment, but it just shows how much they value this character. So by SK choosing it and the Terra, it's a nice look towards the black and yellow.
A very good pickup, and it's a necessary pickup. A very good pickup of the Hobwa also because Paul likes it, right? So it was forced, leaving Jormungandr for
Absolutely.
SK Gaming as a result. Still kind of up in the air if that's Terra solo lane or Jormungandr in the solo lane. Definitely don't expect Paul to be pulling his zeros with the Jormungandr mid by any time soon. So I'm expecting Belair on the Jorm.
Kumbhakarna, guardian of choice for SSG. Relatively classic, traditional. That's where JeffHindla really excels, is when he's able to kind of play these defensive characters and peel for his team. Kumbha, very aggressive with the big knockup, but with so many crowd control options, the yawn, the root, etc., he really works well as a peeler.
You don't need to peel for Jing, but you definitely do for Hobwa, right? And that's going to be the success where Jeff is going to need to implement today, is how to protect andinster in that mid lane. Utilize the carpets to engage or disengage after blinking in potentially could be a good look for him, especially when you're trying to disrupt the dash combination from the Terra, utilizing the dash to the monoliths, resetting it forward. Kumbhakarna has several ways of disrupting it between the yawn and also the epic uppercut.
SK Gaming on the clock now. The Morrigan banned out by Space Station to begin their second part of the ban phase. And while SK think about things, we'll take a look at what SSG already have. The duo lane kind of set in stone. Kumbha can play solo, but unlikely for this squad. And Hebo here, jungle or mid. So really, I'm looking at a choice for Belair. And when I'm thinking about bans for SK, I'm banning solo lane pretty hard here.
That could be one option here. I think that Belair is going to be playing the Jormungandr out of SK, but if I'm looking at Aqua from Space Station
That's what I meant,
Gaming,
apologies.
then I'm probably looking at Achilles specifically, looking at maybe King Arthur, Bellona, and Osiris as definitely a good opportunity to play, especially against the Muzen comp that heavily relies on those basic attacks.
The Zhong ban here also, we've seen him play in the solo lane. Final played him 3 games in a row. So Zhong certainly solo laner in his own right. Zone potential, relatively tanky compared to other mages. So look that will be taken away there by SK as Aquarius, not Belair, will be looking for a choice.
SK Gaming are having nightmares against their team rival set, where what was it? Sam was playing the Thanatos, tried to gank Final K's Zhong, and between the Pythax, Peace Warrior's Blessing, and his own healing from the kit, couldn't find the execute. He healed himself out of it, and this could be an idea where SK might be looking for an aggressive jungler and want to mitigate the tankiness of Aqua.
Certainly possible. Certainly a thought process. Space Station Gaming on the other side, aware that a Muzen Cobb is going to be either in the carry or the mid lane. But Jormungandr Terra. So basically you need a jungler for sure. Space Station banning out Erlang Shen, which is a jungler. The Morrigan, more of a mid lane character, but we have seen the Morrigan in the jungle.
I have seen it. I don't know if it's a Cyno pick necessarily.
Sure.
Knowing that Space Station have the next pick, I'm a little surprised they ban away the Erlang Shen. Leads me to believe that they're looking more at maybe Daji or Najai. I was not going to predict the Awilix, but it makes a lot of sense with the rest of their comp.
The Hebo. I mean, Hebo is one of the, I don't know if I say it's an easier to confirm knockup because it is a small circle, but it's ranged and it's near instant. And so that can enable Awilix really, really well.
Even the Jingwei Persistent Gust is a good opportunity. Kumbhakarna on the epic uppercut. If you land on your allies, they get knocked up a little bit, so you can look for that opportunity. Haven't seen Ratatoskr in a long time, and I'm always scratching my head why. Because this god is just so good. At the beginning of Season 6, we've seen a lot of it where players were locking it in, starting Tier 2 Acorn, no blessing to start off, trying to rush that tier 3. Could see it again today.
It can be problematic in the late game. I've heard teams kind of talk about how you can just kind of beat up Ratatoskr in the late game. The ultimate is still very exciting, but if the squads aren't really grouped up, it really just isn't that what it is in the mid game. And so with that in mind, SK will keep being aware, because that Ratatoskr, powerful, I'm with you. But hearing the way some players have spoken about Rat, the late game can be an issue. Spacestation Gaming see the Rat and start thinking about the late game with a Hell.
So when you're thinking of your solo lane pick and you're thinking of team fights, Hell makes a lot of sense if you're only looking at Space Station's draft. If you're looking at SK's draft, I'm not picking Hell here. I'm getting dove by Ratatoskr, I'm getting dove by Jormungandr in these team fights. I'm not surviving 9 times out of 10, especially against a Rat jungle that's going to try to make his presence felt.
Does the cleanse make it any more exciting, though?
Not really. It's not like an Ares, like you're not cleansing a big cinematic ultimate like an Ares
not
pull
like
or a
Spell.
Shen ultimate, right? Like, yeah, you can cleanse the Ratatoskr ultimate, you can cleanse the knockups from the Jormungandr, but he has 2 more attempts. This has to be Space Station surviving the early solo laning phase.
Is there a world where solo Hebo is the better choice, or do you expect to see the stance switching healer?
Actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea, potentially, because if you're looking to burst down Jormungandr and get him whittled down, you're better off playing the Habwa. And if you control that laning phase, then you can maybe strip away the buffs.
Some interesting mage juggling going around. I like the SK draft. The SSG draft I liked up until the Hell. I'm not sure if I'm vibing with the Hell. What's your overall take?
I'm giving it to SK this game. I dislike the Hell that much that I'm giving it to SK.
What the hell. We'll get ready for game number 1. Space Station Gaming and SK going head to head.
Nice work there, Tom. Nice work, Totally. Sounds like, Handyman, they weren't huge fans of this Hell pick for Space Station at the bottom. What do you think? Do you think this can work for him, or is it maybe going to be a bit of a detriment?
Sure. Like, I guess it's where it's going to be as well, because I was talking to you just before this we got on camera, and
we've been standing here,
where they would go in terms of picks. I mean, technically, Jeff could play it in the support role. Kumba could be going solo. There's a bit of option here for what we're going to see out of SSG. Hell definitely good for keeping the sustain going, but more importantly, the mobility factor is going to play into this as well. That heal will give mobility to the team. And then there's also a cleanse effect that everybody seems to underestimate.
I mean, come on, we know that cleanse is good. I'm still a bit worried, as this is what I was thinking. Hell into the solo lane, then Andy going to be playing this Habwa has got to be what the call is for this squad. Now, they're up against the Jormungandr. He can put in some pressure.
Yeah.
I put him a little bit closer to Warrior than Guardian in terms of how much pressure he can get in solo, but still, I think Aqua should be largely fine.
And that's the thing here, is like, if you're going to run these Guardians in the solo lane, remember Season 5 or Season 4? It was Guardian's Blessing in the solo lane for the most part. Reason being is you sit under your Tier 1 tower and you farm and let the creeps kill each other. Well, if you've got a Guardian like this in this lane, and all it can really... He's not going to get a kill on Hell straight up 1v1, is he? No, everyone knows that.
Right.
So it actually gives chance for this mage to just free farm the early game, and it would require Sam to consistently gank on this Ratatoskr to try and shut it down. If he chooses to do that, sure, Aqua might get shut down in the early game, but that means the rest of the map's opened up to Cyno to make plays in mid and left-hand side with all the pressure being applied to solo lane.
SK Gaming, though, are good at so many various points of the game. That could potentially spell a problem for Space Station. This Ratatoskr gives you strong presence early, even into the mid game, and then obviously the Muzen there to sort of take over, catch the baton, and then late game, the Soul and the Muzen are still super relevant, and you've got a Terra bolstering them. I feel like it is a good draft for them, and I get why the desk was kind of leaning a bit towards SK.
Oh, for sure, and I'm looking at the compositions though. I mean, Space Station Gaming starting off with 2 Aegises this game. They're focused on the Aegis a little bit more so than B. And that makes a lot of sense to me as well. If you think about SK's composition, their hard CC channels are kind of lackluster. I mean, Neil's going to have roots for days, sure, and then I want to get in the clap, but you can see the clap coming to the extent so you can actually Aegis it if you know you're going to get bursted after. AMC in the mid lane, and of course Sol, they don't really provide any CC.
I see what you're saying. I mean, you got to worry about, I guess, like the slows and the knockups from Belair, but it's not like you've got a big Athena on the team that you got to worry about with all of her taunts or anything. It's not that bad, so that's clearly why Space Station instead are going with this Aegis. It might mean, though, it's easier for Sam to keep them in the CC chain, but I guess as long as they're Aegising at the start, then they don't have that much to worry about. They're going to have to be really good on those timings, I think, to make it throughout the early game.
On top of that, there's not as much riding on this set as it could have potentially been as well coming into it.
Sure.
Realistically, this is more for points into Phase 2 and towards the World Championships. But it does mean you can experiment a little bit more freedom to pick what you want when you try out, what you want to see if it'll work in a competitive sense.
JeffHindla, though, is in a heap of trouble. That was a good wall from Neil to cut off Jeff's pathing, which sets up for first blood for Paul. SK already on the board, 2 minutes into the game. What a surprise. The team with Rat can do things like that early.
What a terrible birthday present from SK Games. Can I just say that? Being first blood in this set. I will say, Jeff...
He's older now, a little slower.
Yeah,
Can do, you know,
but,
that's, yeah.
I get those feels, trust me. But the fact that he started off with the Blink's relic on the Kumbhakarna as well, I'm not a big fan of Blink Kumba at the start. He's kind of lackluster in terms of the... I mean, sure, he can blink beyond you, but the CC doesn't last very long. The fans at home are really against SSG.
I can't believe it. I thought that I would take Space Station in any fan vote, just based purely on that. But I like that the team is favoring SK. I think at least based on the drafts, they're probably right to favor SK a good bit. So I think Mixer Chat got it right on
Agree,
this.
at least in terms of, picks and bans, I can understand the thought process there. I think a lot
I
of
don't
people...
think the teams have that much gap between them.
A lot of people are kind of like, complaining about SSG a bit and their performance this year, and I can understand the merit to the madness of that. Taking into account, though, they're also a team that has made a roster change. Cyno coming into the jungle for them. It does take a little bit of while of ramp and adjusting playstyles for those reasons, I don't think Cyno's playstyle, if you just said, jump onto SSG, it's going to work perfectly because I think Cyno and SSG have had two different playstyles through the past year, and it's about bringing those together now as a team.
And that's good news for Space Station because it did seem as though they needed a change. So adding someone in with a different playstyle is what will help. So they just got to figure out the perfect mix of it. And to be fair, I mean, they came into the final week of the phase with a chance to still make the midseason invitational.
Which ain't bad.
So I agree. I think that's not bad at all when you consider it. Now, it does mean, though, that they'll be pretty convincingly in that bottom half since they did not make it. But with some good upside, when they start working towards Phase 2. I think if you are, hardcore BaRRaCCuDDa fans or Cyno fans or whatever, you can feel good about this team.
I think it's just one of these teams that there's a lot of expectation riding on them because of the history of some of these players on this team.
Yeah.
That when you come into a set like this and you come into a season, you expect them to always perform. Teams have bad seasons. Teams have couple of bad years. Players as well do. Look at, for example, a really good example of this is Funballer, right? Like,
yes.
He did not have a good year in SK, and some of that may not have been his choice, but now look at him on Renegades, where he's performing a lot better and finding a bit more, not necessarily consistency. I just think he's finding the right wins and the right moments for himself. And sure, SSG, big fan favorites, so the fans are going to be a lot harder when they do bad.
That's right. And they want to see Space Station be able to grab some wins, so they don't always get to. As Sam for Soccer now level 6. We already saw some pressure from Sam around the level 3 mark from him, but I would be very surprised if you don't see a little bit more. In fact, he's showing some presence towards this right-hand side. Aqua could potentially end up being the target there for him as they look to strip away some of these back camps. He did use a heal, but Sam still holds on to the ult. That means he's not even that serious yet about looking for that kill.
And it's already showing you exactly what we could have expected to see. If it's going to be Hell versus Yom, you're going to have to see Sam come over to pressure. And meanwhile, what's happening on the left-hand side? Well, Cyno is over here between the mid, between the left-hand side and the Gold Fury. This definitely does create a situation that SK need to be careful of a potential Gold Fury or two being taken by Space Station Gaming. The window will be open a little bit more so. The good news from though is that they do have an AMC and Assault for defense around that Gold Fury with the mid and Hunter position respectively. That is a situation where, well, it's at least a little bit risky to try and take Sol on with a Gold Fury burst down.
Yes.
She's pretty good at that.
Yeah, with Disapparate, she can pretty safely kind of move into range, drop Supernova, and force at least a reset around it. And if you're trying to 50-50 against it, that can be pretty difficult. So I think that Space Station will have to be very careful if they want to pick a moment to try and strip away the Gold Fury. In all honesty, I think if I'm Space Station, I'm just hoping that they don't push on the gas too much. Right now, SK have been moving into the solo side jungle and stripping it away. You want them to do about that, hopefully even a little bit less if you're Space Station.
Just interested to see what we saw of Aquarius on that right-hand side. He didn't pressure that wave at all at the moment when Jormungandr rotated. Belair went into the jungle to pressure Andy a little bit, but Aquarius just leaving the creeps where they were for the most part. I guess he's just trying to get as much farm as he can, keep the minions in a decent position where he's not overextended in this lane. But it does just give Jorm even more control over this lane than not.
Sam just backed. I wonder the timing that he's taking. So went back and grabbed tier 2. Looks like trying to move there to avoid shield. Not a bad idea. We've seen this become a little bit more popular for our junglers. I was curious at what his first item when he backed was going to be, and it looks like that's the call for him. So that means he is going to be probably a bit more on the bruisery side, you'd say?
Yeah, and generally you want that from Rat anyway, because he's going to be quite a heavy initiator this game as well.
He'll be right in the center of it, yeah.
He's going to have to be the one potentially initiating or following up off the initial initiation, which will probably come from NeilMah. And then at the tail end, Belair's just going to be doing what he can do best. But big fight in the mid lane going up.
This is the blink that you didn't like so much. Let's see if it pans out. andinster drowns Paul with the crushing wave. Next up, NeilMah with limited options. Good roots allows him to reposition, and the Terra survives.
Could look for a Gold Fury straight away here. 4 members of Space Station grouped. But there is a
Sam's
rat
up
in the sky.
Looking for andinster. That should be an easy cleanup kill and able to reposition. So it ends up being 1-for-1 andinster for Paul. And with Sam getting the kill, still looking around and able to farm and everything, I don't know, that might come out slightly favoring SK.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at builds between the two in the mid lane just to work out who may have got away with that in the grand scheme of things. But it looks like tier 2 boots for Andy, so he didn't get his tier 3 online. And meanwhile, the Transcendence isn't finished for Paul, so I'd say, yeah, you're right. I think it is SK that's slightly leaning towards there, especially when you look at the gold differential.
That's right. It's been constant pressure on this right-hand side of the map, stripping away those back camps, the blue bus, everything over there that Aquarius can't afford to rotate over and defend because there's 3 people on this side of the map. It's all been taken repeatedly. It's starting to even hurt Cyno as well. That's farm he's not getting.
And I think the one thing we talked about here is if Space Station is supposed to be pressuring the left-hand side of the map more, expecting to lose the right-hand side with this hell under the tower, if they're not finding the windows there, Space Station are turning into the next game plan, which will be wait for the mid to late stages of the game, because the longer this game goes on, the more effective this composition will become. Take into account, and one knockup from andinster or a Jing sets up Awilix hugely. And not only that, it gets even harder to kill hell as the game goes on. All the enemy team, because of heals.
There's the knockup, and Paul's the one who can move the least afterwards. Yet again, andinster with the final blow. Crushing wave sets up for a nice kill, and that's the combo you were just talking about that could breathe some life into Space Station in that mid game.
Definitely, and that's all they're looking for. It's not just him that can do it, though. If you take into account, BaRRaCCuDDa can do the same thing for them. There's a lot of opportunities now and again then for Space Station to find a knockup into a full combination. But as long as the initial fight is dictated on their terms, they're in a pretty good spot.
The only problem is, I don't know if pulling Paul in is always going to work. I think it is great. The Muzen doesn't have a bunch of mobility, but that Stinger turnaround potential is huge as JeffHindla found himself a target. Sam dashes away, mitigating the use that epic uppercut, but Cyno just trying to defend the blue.
Yeah, this is all about the deep blue buff defense. Jeff's under pressure here, though. Has to dash away. Cyno. He's on Suku, so I won't be too worried, especially with Hal behind him. The blue buff attempt didn't work out as planned for either team, in my opinion. Going back to what you were saying, though, about AMC in the mid lane overall, I love the fact that AMC has been focused, but hold up, Aquarius has been focused. I did not see that coming.
No, he absolutely didn't. He would have had to use the cleanse preemptively to get away from that one. It's about the only thing that would have saved him. And I did want to point out, he's on the Spellbound Kusari. He's trying to go into the like Genji, something like that, to get some defense up against Belair. It does mean he'll stay perfectly vulnerable to Sam.
Yeah, not only that, it's also for the mana regen that you'll get from that too. MP5 is definitely an important factor.
It's really good
for Aquarius this game. He needs to regen to be able to keep spamming the heals, especially when you're not getting your blue buff either. You're going to need it even more so.
Yeah, it'll feel pretty good. It's just unfortunate that it leaves him open. And like you said, he's got to be either saving the cleanse for when Sam's coming over, or he just doesn't have an answer for it in that situation. That's exactly what we ended up seeing happen there. Good timing between Sam and Belair, and they finally get a kill onto Aqua.
You did mention the MC in mid lane about like trying to burst him down can be an issue. I think it's the right call though for Space Station to be looking for here. He's the one opportune target time and time again to pick off. He's low mobility for the most part.
Especially now in the early games.
Before level 12, before he gets that Aegis online, because that's where the turnaround potential could come. But a quick knock up into an ultimate and then the Hebo after that, you're going to have a hard time as a AMC. Expect to see Paul sit a little bit deeper in his lane unless he's got more support with him now.
I think so too. There's a really good chance he can end up just getting his life traded out as the game goes on. As long as he can, in that moment when they pull him in, and if he can live at least long enough to get a cast off, drop the Stinger onto someone really important, onto andinster maybe if he can find him, onto Cyno, and give his team a chance to at least turn it around and trade his life back out. And I think even then he'll have done his job well enough.
Credit where it's due though to SK Gaming so far. They've started the game off pretty well. The 5k lead developed now. No Gold Fury is involved in this, but more importantly, the ward positions for me. You can see them fighting over sentry ward positions around these entrances to mid lane. They're trying to protect Paul to the best of their ability, but also set themselves up for keeping an eye on which path Space Station's taken to maybe route them in transition.
Man, we talked about how cool the Zapman BaRRaCCuDDa matchup might be coming into this one. I think they're talking about it on the desk, and we mentioned some in the green room before we came on here. But I mean, in this season, I don't know how much it matters, man. They just kind of stick to their own thing for 12 minutes. I mean, a 4K gold lead developed between the teams, and they haven't gotten to do anything.
I think the reason is, Finch, is because when you think about this year, they've hold up, big blink in the mid lane from the Kumbhakarna towards the AMC, who does get knocked up, and the follow-up from Sammy's there, but it's not good enough just yet.
Yeah, this time Paul's lived, able to turn around and drop the stinger. andinster had to use the crushing wave, though, into the enemy team, but is able to get back out with that Atlas of the Yellow River. JeffHindla is inside the passive, but Paul wasn't able to get into range in time, and JeffHindla survives. That makes that a 1-for-0 pick.
Listen, it's Jeff's birthday. He's allowed to lie in now and again, you know, that's the main thing. BaRRaCCuDDa, though, rotated in. And actually, that cost him his Aegis as the burst from Paul and Neil causes problems. Talking about problems.
Belair wants andinster. That's certainly a problem. There's the Aegis to keep him alive, and he will indeed use that last hit just to retreat. But that's 2 relics forced out now by SK on the back of that fight. And maybe that's why they're pulling over here towards this Gold Fury.
Really good call to go for the Gold Fury here. Cyno's the only one close by, but Neil already gonna send him away. Funny enough, I was about to say, that's a different Belair than I'm used to seeing from previous years gone by. He would have died for that kill then after the Aegis.
Curious. Maybe he thought he was going to be jumped on by Cyno and Supernova at his feet to stop
Potentially.
that.
I actually think he was trying to catch you on the rotation. Like if you saw Cyno rotate around that corner, the amount of damage there is pretty impactful.
Yes.
And it can be underestimated for how much it'll do. If it can connect every bit of paint blobs, I call them paint blobs.
Any amount of. I'm just saying they were very far from Cyno. And so I think, and that's why I think maybe he thought he was in danger.
Going back to your Hunter conversation on that left-hand side, though, between the two.
We'll never get a chance.
No, we will. Let's just keep doing action in the mid lane. Let's go. 3-3, 30 minutes in. Fight. Fight.
Okay, back to the Hunter discussion. It seems like they calmed down. I'd love to hear it.
These guys have been around for a long time, right?
Yes.
And I think this season is the season where you'll see more 1v1 fights between Hunters, so I think that's the reason why you'd hope to see these two go at it a little bit more. But BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't get soloed very often.
No.
And to be fair, Zapman is someone that gets himself soloed in the long term over his career more than anything else, right? So I don't necessarily think we're going to see too much action in this lane, specifically considering it is going to be Sol versus Jing as well.
That's right.
Which just eludes we might as well have had Hell and Jorm in the dual lane at this point. That's how slow it'll be.
Some very safe picks over here in the dual lane. They don't have a ton of individual kill potential on one another because of all that extra safety. So yeah, we'll likely see them make their impacts later on, but that's why I bring up the fact that it's going to be a lead. I mean, is it fair to judge Bear's impact versus Zap's later on if Zap comes in onto a team with a 5k gold lead already before they even really started? You know, it's just, it can be tough sometimes.
He did help with that gold lead by not dying. So you're gonna just look at so Hunters may not be involved for like 25 minutes of the game. In the old days, it was solo laners that did the same thing, you know? Like, solo laners did the same thing. So don't worry too much about it. As long as you're not feeding in lane, you're actually helping your team in the long run.
Helping them focus on the 4v4 elsewhere.
Exactly.
Rather, as Cyno's gone into the Hydras for his second item and has some pen waiting. Could easily see that being a Crusher or Jotuns to try and accelerate his build as well.
Now, Space Station were in a really good spot in the early game. They'd focused a lot towards Paul, but as we mentioned, it was all during the early game before that second relic comes through for Paul. Now he's got the Aegis online. There's turnaround potential now for SK, and taking into account they've already got a gold lead established in this game, the window of success for Space Station is starting to be nullified for now. We're hoping to get to around 26-27 minutes when this Hell can really start to make a difference in the grouping on team fights.
Cyno still trying to defend the blue buff and keep Aqua manned up, but look at this rotation of SK. They were trying to catch him out, but instead they'll settle for this Pyromancer instead. Even Belair will rotate over, so this is for sure theirs. No one from Space Station even nearby. I do want to go back to Sam's build. It is going to be the Shifter Shield that he picks up into the Magai's Cloak. I mean, it does give you a ton of initial power and then some added safety on the way back out. It's been changed a bit, so you get that extra safety a little bit sooner.
It has, and I think that's one thing, but wait a second, Blink initiation in the mid lane, and Paul's in the sky. On landing, he's fine though, as Andy got pressured out by Neil.
I can't believe he thought you were going to get to do some chair 2 in there, Hindu man. No way.
Stop asking me
Instead, we got to
questions.
cast the game. Andinster gets away from the bees, but he does get hit by the stinger, so that means no way that one ends up getting picked up.
Good Aegis actually from Andy towards the tail end there. Although the honey, oh honey.
Oh, it's ticking.
Oh honey. Oh sweet, sweet honey.
Unfortunate for Andinster as he ends up taking a spill. Muzen feels pretty good a lot of the time.
Paul's face there on the cloud. Like, there's just that cheeky grin of like, killed by bees. And now gets a tier 1.
Guess I'm playing a Muzen still. Got it. I mean, he's got the Brawler's beat stick in there too. He's going to be able to keep that applied constantly throughout the fight. It's going to feel so oppressive for Space Station to try and make sure they're getting the most out of Aqua's healing with how well he can apply that. Right now, it's the only thing they've got going for him. Looks like the Cursed Ankh has come through from Belair. I expect that to get upgraded before too long.
Yeah, I was going to mention that to heal at some point in the game if we ever got to needing it at the moment with this, how this one's playing out. And it will be impactful. Like we said, I'm looking at a 26-minute clock for SSG to start bringing hell into the fray. And that, with the Lotus Crown now complete for Aquarius too, the extra protections from those heals will help out in these team fights.
Hey, man, look at what I'm talking about.
What?
BaRRaCCuDDa has 783 player damage, and his team's down 7,000.
Is his job in the first 20 minutes finished to do damage?
I'm just saying, you just don't get to have a say.
You say that, but then Zap's at 1,200 damage, so there's a 500 differential.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Both of the hunters, neither one of them have any. They don't get impacted.
But then if you look at
necessarily.
solo laners, Finch, for the past
It used to
3
be,
years,
yeah.
there was 10k player damage for each, and neither one of them had died, and no one cared about them.
That's right. They have the inverse. They used to have
Yes.
fake player damage that didn't matter, and these guys obviously get to do nothing.
And it makes them
Because
look
of the beginning of
worse
the game.
because they don't get to do fake player damage.
We don't at least
you know?
get top player damage on the end of the game when I didn't do anything. Right?
That's what the hunter can't do. They can't go, well, at least I'm top damage. They have to work through it in the last, 9 minutes of a game normally.
Man, somehow I've worked you into a position where you're fighting for the relevance of hunters. I love it.
God.
Go Oni Fury now being looked at here by SK.
You're working
Space
me well,
Station.
Finch. You're pushing me about to support people that I don't want to support
That's
anymore.
exactly right.
I hate supporting hunters.
Well, it's because you have to support hunters. That you hate
It's
them.
the worst.
As Oni Fury, they're baiting in Space Station. I don't even know how much they really want this objective, as much as they want the fight. JeffHindla has already used the blink, but into the back line goes Neil, hitting multiple members with that ultimate. Sam for Soccer ready for the follow-up. Andinster stunned and locked down, forced into crushing wave, but Zapman's already removed Cyno.
Really good work for Sam there, just to zone
Goodness.
Andy away and keep Andy busy. And at the tail end of it, Zap gets a double kill. This could get worse.
Yeah, if you wanted some Zapman damage, I'm sure you got some just now. A nice fight for him as he finds a double. Belair gets one more to make it 3-0, and now they move over to the Oni Fury.
Just want you to point out those player damage charts real quick and how BaRRaCCuDDa is jumped up massively.
That's my point. That is truly exactly what I'm saying. He hasn't. As soon as he gets to come into the fight,
Yep.
he gets 3.2k damage in one fight, and it still isn't enough.
And then he may
now
die.
BaRRaCCuDDa is certainly dead to rights here.
Nothing worse than faceplanting into the wall, but you're just trying to escape to the best of your ability there. SK Gamer looking great here. And honestly, coming into this set, when you think about the fact there's not a whole lot on the line, I said that earlier on now, and SK were just really doing this for pride more than anything else today. I'm pleased by how they've come out to play. They've got a lot to work on in the offseason, but they know that themselves. They had a great start to the year, but as time went on, they just started to dip down a little bit more than everyone expected.
I think so too, and I do think there was a little bit of regression to the mean from their two big superstars, Paul and Sam, who towards the end of Season 5 looked like untouchable at times, and then throughout here in Season 6, they looked like, other SPL players instead of that untouchable level.
For all intents and purposes, those two were technically rookies, right? They had a great rookie year, rookie season, so to speak. So everyone looks at them and goes, okay, we want another one and even better this time. You can't expect it.
I agree.
You're still going to grow. You're still going to learn. These players that have been around a long time never had a standout season, but they've had consistent performances.
This is trouble. Cyno falls early on. Fire Giant almost done. In fact, it is done. SK grab it, and that's a 12,000 now gold lead for SK Gaming, and this is the kind of performance that had us thinking that this was one of those top teams at the end of Season 5 when they made that run at Worlds and at the tournament right before that. And then here at the beginning of Season 6, we were expecting this kind of SK. It's been a little bit, we don't see it every week, but we always know it's there from. They have this upside potential.
Definitely. So can we have a little look at the Wards place real quick, please? I just want to see the massive
Get outta
difference.
here.
I expected a huge... What?
It's your job to place them. Get out of here. No one
What,
else
the Wards?
worries about
No,
Wards.
I'm just looking at the mini-map more than anything. All I see is blue everywhere. Hold that thought, though. In the sky goes Zap.
Zapman looking or rather Sam looking for a target. JeffHindla low on the front line. Frenzy comes out, but he's able to reposition to the back line. Patience from Sam up top. He catches out andinster with no way to remove, but that's the right side Phoenix already done, and SK Gaming don't want to force the issue any more than that.
No, they don't need to. They've done the damage already. I mean, 20 minutes in, you've taken a Phoenix down and have a Fire Giant in a pretty damn good spot. That whole war conversation, though, you could really see the difference between the two. But hold up, this is a bait. Poor old BaRRA maybe in a bit of trouble here.
Where's
and
Tom
not just
Hardy?
him, Aquarius too.
Aqua has no way to get out of this one. At least BaRRaCCuDDa has airstrike. Zapman gets the kill credit and sends BaRRaCCuDDa running for the hills. But yeah, what a call from SK Gaming. I mean, so many times you see the defensive team there push up because they think you can finally go get some farm. So SK just bait that.
It's a rope-a-dope more than anything else. We think you're here, you fake the left and throw it the right. That's all it is in the grand scheme of things. It works out pretty well for them. Now they get a tier 2 in mid, knowing that there's another member dead. This could be a fallback situation though, buy up a couple of items, potentially take a tier 2 in the left-hand side, but it's going to take them a while to get the minions there too.
This is stifling, SK. I mean, I get the idea. You pick this hell into the soul lane because you see the Yorm over there and you're thinking you probably won't get that punished, but they lost so much control of that side of the map in terms of the camps, Hindu. I mean, SK had a 5k goal lead before they even fought.
And I think coming into this, we all knew that. We all knew they weren't going to control that right-hand side very well, but we were kind of hoping with the Awilix pickup and the plan of the picks of like the Hero and the Kumbhakarna, that you'd see more focus towards mid and the left-hand side, which we never saw. Now, some of that definitely was stifled by the Sol pick by Zapman, because the Separate is so good for getting you away from dangerous situations that if you do get ganked by quite a few people, you can buy yourself a bit more of a window. But it's also SK Gaming also recognized what the game plan was from Space Station themselves. They shored up that middle lane a little bit more as time went on. Sure, Paul got picked a couple of times, but it wasn't at a detriment at the end of the day.
I wonder though, Hindu man, do you feel like we need to see more from Cyno here on the Space Station roster? The set performances did not particularly impress. This Awilix hasn't done much either.
Cyno has had a good year, right? Like he came from console to Pro League and then won a World Championship. And I think everybody's now looking at that of like, well, you know, he won a World Champ, so he should be able to carry SSG out of this grind, right? This young rookie with 4 experienced players on his team alongside him. Yeah, let's all give him a chance. That's all I'm about. Give him a chance. Maybe,
still too soon to say.
Maybe at the end of the year, if he's still in the same boat and he just joins the crew of Space Station, we can have words. But for now, give him a minute to give it a go.
Frenzy has already been used on the left side. Phoenix could tell you that better than I could. It felt the full fury and came straight down. Sam's up in the air, waiting for a target. It might be Andy, who he's lurking at here on the top side. Crushing Wave comes out, waited for it patiently, and now it's a 2 for 0. Only 3 to try and stop SK from barreling in, but they're going to do this by the book. Grab the mid Phoenix here first.
Might as well take it down. There's no reason to worry, and I like the Paul's position and just trying to catch anyone that might try and step up and cause a problem. But he will be needed for a little bit of Phoenix damage. Minions through the mid lane, only normal minions now, and only 3 members to defend. We'll see if SSG can hold.
It's not going to be easy for them. Cyno tries to go in, but gets him melted. Zapman and Paul's damage way too strong. That just leaves Aqua and BaRRaCCuDDa to do the impossible. Belair gets 1 more kill credit to add to his count. And just like that, SK Gaming under 25 minutes taking game number 1.
I think the worst thing from this set overall for SK's point of view is I hope they don't walk after the set and go, man, why don't we play this halfway through the split, you know? Because then we might have been on our way to MSI. But it's a good game 1. Honestly, from SK's point of view, they wouldn't really want to change too much. In the grand scheme of things, there's a chance you could look at maybe not going for the beads and maybe the Aegis instead for Paul in the mid lane, just because of how the combo works out there. It may have kept him alive a little bit longer. Other than that, though, quite happy with the performance from SK's point of view.
That's right, and it's kind of the performance if you're SK that I don't even know how much you can take from it, because really what happened is just that the early aggression worked really well for them in that game. So you might not always be able to replicate that going forward, but at least you know your team can play very, very cleanly with a lead and not, you know, mess up on the execution.
This sort of level of play really is just identifying what the enemy team's doing, what you're doing, and making sure you deny them wherever you can, and also follow through with what your game plan was. And in that situation, that's what SK did.
They played it really well. I mean, and they played to their draft, right? I mean, clearly they wanted Aqua and that Hell to be a late-game monster for them. They never allowed them to get to that point. They went right to the Hell and put pressure there. Even without a ton of ganks, it was just stealing all their farm.
And you also look at what Space Station Game did elsewhere. They had a lot of knock-ups for the Awilix, but that nearly really didn't come to fruition either. I've got to give some credit to SK though with their draft, because that was definitely a knock-on effect because of it.
I think you're right to point out that Soul pick too probably cut a lot of the options away for SSG. But let's see if they can get a win for JeffHindla's birthday and get it back over to the desk.
Thanks a lot, guys. Good job on the commentary. And watching this one, this was SK Gaming just kind of doing what SK Gaming does. And this is a team that I was really expecting to see. Because, and you know, maybe I should check myself on that. This is what SK Gaming does. Not consistently, though. This is what they look like when they are performing well.
And when they have this kind of a composition. The Ratatoskr coming out of Sam was great in terms of exploiting Andy. Despite it being Jeff's birthday, it felt like he was giving the present to SK Gaming when he was the result of that first blood early game. But yeah, andinster on the Habwa, a little questionable at times, because there was one point in the game where he had great execution with JeffHindla. He was getting kills onto NeilMah, waiting for Paul to land, going down on the crushing wave, but then after the kill, notice his positioning after the disengage. His whole team goes at the bottom left mid camps. He goes north, allows Sam to rotate on the Ratatoskr for the cleanup. andinster needs to fix that positioning.
Coming to stay more grouped up with the squad. Here's Zapman making some kills and performing well. And the commentators were talking a lot about this, which is why I wanted to bring this up, is that, you know, carries don't really have an impact in the game until that moment.
Yeah.
They were kind of making fun of the hunters. You know, Zapman had 1,200 damage, BaRRa had 700 damage, and it was 15 minutes into the game. But then that's when you make those rotations and an 18-minute team fight. Zapman finishes 3-1-5, and he was one of the bigger players in that last siege push. Nothing early on, but that's the nature of the position.
It's very uncommon for hunters to be the 2 bottom player damage of the entire game, lower than the supports. But that's kind of what Season 6 has been like. Both Zap and BaRRa quiet the first 17 minutes, but then that fight around Gold Fury where Zap and BaRRaCCuDDa got off a lot of player damage. And Zap, despite going up on a ride on that epic uppercut, he was able to land safely with that disapparate. This is why Zapman has been playing the Soul recently and other hunters.
You can see the GPM highest for those carries, and you look at Zap and BaRRaCCuDDa, it's because they're just relegated over there into that side lane. And then, like you said, the damage comes through towards the end. And really what we usually see these longer drawn out games, and that allows these carries to rack up a lot of damage as they go team fight to team fight to team fight. SK Gaming, to all their credit, didn't need that many team fights. They kind of just did everything as I mean, this was kind of textbook vanilla SMITE. Just go ahead and win early to mid, late, win team fight, right Phoenix, etc.
And I wanted to critique this hell pick, the last hell pick. It just didn't suit the nature of Space Station's roster at all in the slightest. Like, you're up against a magical soul laner and a physical jungler. Now, building into magical defense to deal with your solo matchup, you're susceptible to those global jungle ganks, and that's what happened around the 10-minute mark where Sam did make his presence felt in that solo lane. As a result, it was a 2-level lead for Belair consistently throughout the game, about an 8 totem of coup advantage as a result, which is only 1,000 gold. SK Gaming at that point were already up 4,000.
That's the hell pick. I agree with you totally. Don't want to see it this time around in the picks and bans. Well, as long as it's composition.
It needs to make sense.
Exactly.
It just did not make sense in that game.
Space Station Gaming, SK Gaming, looking to change things up, or at least Space Station. I don't think SK want to change anything.
No, definitely not. I mean, with Space Station losing, they take the order side now. I want to see where they go with the first pick opportunity by banning away the Chronos and the Freya. Obviously, it's not Magical Hunters unless they take a complete wild spin and first pick Soul.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
I mean, you primarily talk about the set metas and how the meta game and the meta of the set individually can kind of change a little bit. First pick Soul would be weird in general, but for this set, might make a little bit of sense.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Space Station first picks something else, like Jormungandr here.
Yeah.
SK Gaming picks something that's not Jormungandr or Soul, and then Space Station lock in the Soul before secondary ban phase. But I would be very surprised if they were to first pick it.
I don't think Cooper has blinked at all. I really don't think he blinked at all while that camera was on him, and that's kind of weird.
NBC, no blink Coop.
Okay. You know, this usually happens the other way around.
That's why I had to give it to you.
I have no response to that.
I had to do it too.
Well, ABC, All big things coming to an end. Does that work? Shut up, Tully. Don't
APT.
answer that. It's SK Gaming here on the clock. We've got to respond to the AMC. Last time around, they went with the Jormungandr, which was a choice that SSG has prioritized in the past. This time around, the Terra being thought about.
The way Neil played Terra last game was perfect because despite Space Station Gaming getting great success at picking out Paul in the early game, eventually NeilMah was doing a great job zoning away, so Paul was eventually surviving a lot of those engagements.
The Morrigan picked here early. It was banned out last time, and I think the Morrigan affects the game, the picks and bans game, really interestingly, because you don't want to give, when the opponent selects the Morrigan, you don't want to give them an overwhelming good character. For example, I find that if the opponent has selected the Morrigan, Fear No Evil is something that I kind of want to stay away from. Hunbats isn't really my favorite selection, because that means you have it as well. I like the Soul in that mind, because I think Soul, you can turn it into Soul and do the thing, but it's not generally gameplay changing. The Jormungandr, though, might be an interesting one.
It definitely is, but you don't have to worry about that Fear No Evil since it is banned away. And this Morrigan is actually going to Zapman. He played against Arkil in that one game, game 1 of Rival Set. He actually soloed Arkil once, only to get soloed games 2 and 3 as a result. I think that triggered something inside that French hunter's mind. But going up against BaRRaCCuDDa today on the Soul, a little bit more difficult to solo against her when she has the Desapre, but Paul on his Zhong, signature Zhong now as of late. Great team fighting presence with the Terra. Now, Zap, when he makes these rotations, he has 2 great team fighting gods to choose from between the Terra and the Zhong.
Even the Jormungandr across the way as well, so SK Gaming now thinking about their bans. Previously looking in the support role while SSG looking to the jungle. SK will stick there, so the bans coming out from SK, Kumbha, and the Fafnir. Space Station's jungler Cyno trying to figure out what he'd like to play while banning out SK's jungle at the same time.
It's almost like you have to limit the mobility from SK's roster, right? Like, I'm thinking Odin. Like, I know Odin hasn't been played, but you need to find ways to lock in Terra, Morrigan, Zhong. Maybe find ways to reveal them, right? Like, Kukulkan wouldn't be a bad idea with all the damage over time from the vent. Anger, something to reveal Zapman.
Odin is a character that is... man, he's just not very good, but that ring is still the ring. You and I seem to be some of the last 2 holdouts of the Church of Odin, because I sincerely believe in the ring. But it has been nerfed approximately 7,000 times, and he has been changed approximately 7,000 times.
You could still go Kumbhakarna, right, and still get a similar effect. It might not be the full ring, but it's still long enough and a good enough of a semicircle enclosement to lock in the Zhong, and that's all the time you really need to change the impact of a team fight.
Athena here for Space Station. Again, classic Guardian. That's where JeffHindla really, really shines. The last choice. I would love this Naja. You can't give him Naja. That's what Cyno said at the World Championships when he took home the MVP for those World Championships. Space Station Gaming. This is, honestly, if I'm coaching Space Station, this is what they need. They need just Cyno to go off. Just give us one game where you go 7-0, man. You know, we will team win later on. Right now, I need an MJ to just jump over other people. Cyno on the Naja has the propensity to do that. I think the question right now is if they want to play into the Zhong. Usually you like a squishier mage when you're playing the Naja.
Well, Zhong not as squishy, but Morrigan certainly is squishy. Yep. So if Cyno has intentions of locking in this jungler, start speed, start red, grab 1 purple buff minion, get level 2, make a blink play on Zapman's Morrigan, get BaRRaCCuDDa ahead.
We've actually seen an interesting adaptation from that where if the jungler solos the speed, they don't even have to hit purple.
That's true. That's another way of starting things off. And as an Muzen cob, I guess you don't necessarily have to help the Naja do it. You can definitely
all the push in the world.
Yeah, you have all the push and your power. You're not going to get out-pushed anytime soon by Zhong, so there's no threat of getting invaded. So this is a good opportunity now to maybe abuse Morrigan.
This is the real fun part because, you know, game number 1, we're really sitting there breaking down team compositions. Don't get me wrong, this is still absolutely a team game, but I look at what Space Station Gaming have done here, and this is realistically give the ball to Cyno. That's exactly what they're doing.
this is still now uncertain of where any of the draft from SK is going, because honestly, Morrigan or Zhong could be in solo lane, and in that dual lane, it's either Morrigan or Medusa, but between those, the rest of the three, that could be in mid easily. It's just hard to tell.
If I'm Space Station, does it matter?
Yes, because if it's Morrigan in the dual lane, I'm ganking it. If it's Medusa, maybe not as much.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if Cyno's Naja. Can you give it to him? That's the question we're asking right now. Casters to game number 2.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Toli. And this is the game Space Station really need. It's so difficult to win when you go down 0-2. SK, on the other hand, trusting in Morrigan to get this done. This isn't a pick I always associate with this team, but definitely one they can use well.
Yeah, and that's what's talking about where these characters could go in SK. I really do feel like Zapman might pull out the Morrigan in the dual lane.
Really?
Mainly because he's going to get easy pressure for the most part. Sure, he's going to be against Sol, but once he gets through the initial laning phase, he can just start rotating around the map more, potentially and causing some problems. There is one little composition, that the little mechanic that's in there, the Erlang Shen taunt into a Medusa ult, is like a poor man's Athena Medusa combo, but it is definitely a possibility they could set up for here. And it is Zap and the Morrigan. There you go.
Zapman takes Morrigan into the duo lane. Belair, Zhong solo, that part made sense. Looks like we do have a brief pause, though, coming out as andinster needs to get some things sorted out for him and the rest of Space Station Gaming. So you get to come right back to us. Lucky you. We'll get that all sorted out. But we got the brief preview just now. It is going to be the Morrigan over an ADC. Why does Zap
We just
want
get to
this
stand
takeover?
here and be right? That's all we have to do.
Well, you were right. I wouldn't have said that. So.
No, I didn't really. I just guessed. I just rolled the dice and hope for the best.
You gambled? No way.
The Morrigan pick is actually really good because BaRRa plays the lane for the most part pretty defensively anyway, outside of gank opportunities. So if we see Zap get some pressure in this lane, the Morrigan stealth, being able to rotate through the jungle quickly, can easily build up a stacking item if he so chooses in this lane, or go for more mobility options. Expect to see a bombers on Zapman. That wouldn't surprise me. The fact that he'd be able to rotate around towards the Gulf queue, even towards mid lane, very, very quickly, can cause a lot of knock-on effects of being at the tail end of ganks. The hunters like to do that.
Yeah.
They know there's going to be a lot of fighting going on in the mid lane. They like to try and make the rotation at the tail end of the fight, get all the kills, and get all the credit.
Yeah, I think it can just give you straight up pressure in lane too, though. The last time I think we saw the Morrigan ADC, it was like the Morrigan versus Hachiman lane matchup, and the Morrigan would just turn into Hachiman ult, and then go back to Morrigan base kit, and then now that she's closed and done all that damage, just kill you with the Morrigan base kit. It's just too much. You can do the same thing here, even with that Medusa, right? Turn to that, use the ultimate Petrify, and now you have to deal with that and also Morrigan. It's just too much easily confirmable damage for BaRRaCCuDDa to match that output.
And the Zhong pick, obviously, we mentioned a little bit, you expected it in the solo lane, just because Final K piloted it so well against Jormungandr that everyone was like, hey, seems to be a pretty good pick against Jorm, this. And I think that's why Aqua last game was playing around with the hell, because it's in a very similar vein to what Zhong's going to do in that lane. Sustain through the lane. Okay, you're going to beat me up. That's cool and pretty, but you won't get a kill. I'll keep farming and be relevant late game. But you're still going to get to the late game.
Jeff goes with the Frenzy. First Relic. This item has become really popular. A lot of people like it, but you just don't always see it this soon. As Paul and Andy trading blows here very early in the middle lane.
That's man mode. Don't back away, Andy. Be a man. Be a man and fight. Don't hide round the corner. Scum. Hey, you're doing a straight fight.
You want him to live.
And to be fair, Paul cheated then because he spat on the minions and hit him. That's not fair.
What do you... Well, answer is bees.
Not yet, he doesn't.
Oh, well, what did he take for... Oh, he
I
took
don't
the
know.
hives.
We don't know. Did he take hive?
Yeah, he took the hives, yeah.
See, that's not fair.
Well, you're right. All he can do is set down a hive, and Paul has the advantage of being able to spit. So there you go. Yeah, that's not right. Plus, you don't spit on someone during a fight. That's disrespect. You don't do that.
Yeah, it depends what kind of night it's been, for the most part. NeilMah, though, on this left-hand side, right-hand side, will be playing the Terra again. I love his Terra plays, honestly. I think Neil and probably Mike are my two favorite Terra players, all in all.
Sure.
I do think they stand out more so than others. We've got a good sash from Cyno.
Yeah, BaRRa has the Aegis forced out early on, but all that could be a distant memory if Zapman ends up falling here and now. Sam has got to get in close and cut this one off. Zapman just barely makes into the stealth in time to reposition. It costs him his beads, but he's out of there. This, though, might be a little bit too ambitious. Zapman
really
coming back in. Great pin, though, trusting in Sam.
Little bit of greed from SK Gaming there. A little bit of disrespect for the fact that Cyno is on Naja and definitely has kill potential. Notice how Zap and Sam both get aggressive and Space Station back away. They realized that Paul was missing from the mid lane for a moment. He was making that rotation. That could have been a difference maker. Although now Cyno pinned in place. He's going to take a ton of damage.
That's Cyno's beads now used, and all of a sudden SK has found some turnaround potential here in this fight. Actually, a really good amount of damage. Sam still gets the
dead.
Fatalis effect and can stick right on top of BaRRaCCuDDa, but these minions pose a real significant
Still
issue
dead.
for him. He dies either way. First blood for Sam for soccer.
And now in the mid lane, the wall was attempted onto andinster there, but it didn't hit.
There's that
because
frenzy.
Andy stepped forward, and now the taunt after the fact causes a problem. Notice the shell came out as soon as the frenzy did. One more basic.
And he
Got
lands
it.
it. And it's just showing some accuracy, but it costs him his life. Paul moves back in and finds yet another kill. Tons of action across the map already here at the beginning of this game, but it ends up favoring SK. Not just first blood, but they come away 2-1.
I will say that left-hand lane fight as well with Cyno and BaRRa up against Zap and Sam for soccer. There's nothing worse than a hunter in that situation where you juggle it. All you want to do is farm, and you know BaRRa's the same way. Like, he wants to farm in that lane.
Yes.
But Cyno's like, yo, we can get a kill. We can get a kill. And he's like, no, I'm out of health. I'll see you later. Bye. And then you're like, oh, neat. I'll disapparate and hopefully live. But we knew the pin was coming through. It was going to be an awkward position there. Good fight, honestly, for SK Gaming, and gets him a nice early lead, especially on an Erlang Shen too. That's what you want it against someone like Najjar in the jungle.
This is why Erlang Shen's so strong early on in the game. I mean, the Fatalis effect that he's able to get, the pin for the root is so strong. Exposed weakness, that first ability gives him such tremendous boxing potential too.
Definitely.
I mean, it's so difficult to stop him, even just on those first couple of abilities in the 2v2 or even the 1v1.
And the funny thing is that Najjar is all about mobility for the most part. Mobility, repositioning, and then the stun sash. Whereas Erlang Shen, if he gets you into range, you're not going to have a fun time. And especially if the pin keeps you rooted, your mobility you're going to get from a ring toss isn't going to be impactful.
And remember, that starts with Zapman just barely surviving the aggression on the purple buff as he looks to send a message here to BaRRaCCuDDa that he is the Morrigan, and you're already under pressure before I even get my Changeling ultimate. Things only get worse.
This is why the Morrigan can be so potent in this dual lane, especially if you're getting left 1v1. We mentioned about the, the 1v1 fights in this lane that may not happen. With a Morrigan here and Zap piloting it here, it wouldn't surprise me to see a few kills. Taking into account, once Zap hits 5, he has an absolute huge option of which target he wants to turn into to try and get the killing blow on BaRRaCCuDDa.
Yeah, if he needs mobility, then the Erlang Shen looks really good. He can close the distance there. If he already knows he's locked down next to Bear, then maybe the Zhong.
Yes.
How do you get away from any of that damage? Maybe even if he wants to take a bit of a safer trade, Paul's Petrify is pretty confirmable damage. He's got some excellent targets. That's just on his own team, by the way, if he doesn't want a Najjar.
And then, or an AMC with honey and bees everywhere, right? Like, it's a rough matchup for BaRRa, but BaRRa's good on the defensive option to be able to survive the storm. Obviously, the first blood does hurt him, but at the moment, they're still at least equal level. We'll see how that continues to develop then. Seeing Hunter versus Hunter in the mid lane, it's kind of fire with fire, you know? That's why you see the Hunters end up in there more often than not. It's all about that pressure. And the Hunters, these two specifically, are very much focused on ability-based damage. And it's one of the reasons you'll see them over some auto-attack-based ones.
What do you know? SK Gaming looking for yet another blue buff invade. This time, Aqua's even on the Yorm, and it's still not enough. Belair happily takes that one for himself. Really, the rest of Space Station could not get there in time, though. This could be interesting. A taunt onto Paul is not interesting, actually. He's fine.
It was a good taunt from Jeff, but Andy had already used the Swarm, so there was no real further follow-up available for Space Station Gaming in the mid lane. I do want to come back to the Frenzy pickup from Jeff. I was going to mention it in Game 1, actually. I'm like, I wonder when we'll start seeing Frenzy as first items being purchased. Because you can potentially burst down a Gold Fury quicker than your opposition then. The window for an objective to be taken opens up earlier on, especially with compositions like this, where you've got an AMC and a Sol on your team. You can do a lot of damage in the early game and potentially steal an objective before SK Game could even turn around and make a difference.
And your first relic selection in support might be more important than anyone else's. I mean, as much as it matters in mid, but the problem is that when you're support, it's so long until you get to level 12 and you get your second relic. So the one you pick for that one really can be so impactful. You got to make sure that you get the one you're going to get the most value out of.
But it's also a game of rock, paper, scissors in terms of the supports. But hold up, Cyno in mid in pressure.
Erlang Shen, by the way, forcing out the ultimate from Cyno. It was a trade, though. 9 turns blessing used by Sam. Looks like Neil dropped his as well, so they were able to get that one on cooldown. A lot used there, but no one ends up dying.
Yeah, relic situation, though. Frenzy pop by Jeff and beads down for Cyno. Obviously, beads were down for Andy there, so a net win in terms of a relic situation for SK. Sure, ultimates are up a little bit more often, so it's not a bad thing to invest in ultimate most of the time and save and hold onto your relic. With that relic power play for SK Gaming, they can now turn around and try and put some more pressure onto Cyno. Or Zap could get aggressive on BaRRa.
Yeah, this could potentially be a problem. Zapman takes a ton of damage with Supernova, and BaRRaCCuDDa, with Defender of Olympus, is looking to try and turn the tables. Taunt my man back in, And the slows as well. BaRRaCCuDDa with some help from Jeff. You've seen it for literal years now.
I was gonna
That's
say,
how he does
it's
it.
been 5 years, Zap, but if you don't get the kill, you know you're going to have a hard time because Jeff was definitely going to sit on Cyno no beach, remember?
He's in a whole lot of trouble here. Belair takes care of him. SamForSoccer gets the kill credit. But as you said, there is nothing more SMITE than JeffHindla coming in and saving BaRRaCCuDDa.
No, but more credit to SK Gaming Finch here because as soon as there's pressure on the left-hand side, 2 members sit up on the left, all of a sudden, Zapman goes down, they pressure the right, they get a kill, and they strip the jungle away. This is just good play from SK Gaming. Sure, the kill, incidentally, is great onto Zapman for his over-aggression, but I love the fact that SK go, we made a mistake, and we immediately rally back round and find a win.
JeffHindla, though, looking for a little bit more. He dashes and taunts onto SamForSoccer, who's stuck underneath the Yorm, so he'll take some damage, but look at the 9 turns blessing heal. He is absolutely fine and ready to keep rolling.
This is a good play from SK Gaming on this right-hand side, too. But yeah, going back to it, like, you knew that was going to be a case, potentially, of what would happen if BaRRa does manage to survive, and full credit to BaRRaCCuDDa in that engagement, by the way. His ultimate was well-timed to keep him alive and just disrupt Zapman enough to allow him to, you know, get back into the fray and have support arrive.
And if Supernova's up, I don't know that Erlang Shen's the pick, because he can just kind of kite inside the Supernova, and there's really no way for Erlang Shen to get value except to be in melee range. So in those situations, maybe the Medusa, the Zhong, the Muzen feel a bit better.
Zap's in that position, though, where he's like, listen, that's an assassin jungler in Erlang Shen. Sure, it's a warrior, right? But he's like, I get killed by these guys all the time.
Right, clearly they're okay.
Surely that's what I turn into when I'm going to go for a kill on a duo lane member, right? That's the whole idea behind it. He didn't want to play more hunters. If he wanted to do that, he would have picked Medusa for himself, you know?
I suppose so. He still has a lot of options, though, in that dual lane, even though that first attempt didn't work. SK hold on to about a 2K gold lead, which is nice. It's definitely not out of reach for Space Station, though.
No, and that's the one thing I expect to see Zap do more of that as time goes on. Belair, though, is definitely feeling confident in this lane now. Got a couple of items online, a level lead over Aquarius, and starting to abuse this matchup a little bit more so by proxy farming the waves.
JeffHindla and Cyno are here as well, but Belair has SamForSoccer for backup and will fall out. I wonder if part of why the Zhong feels so good in this matchup is that you can interrupt the Jormungandr during his 2, and then kind of move outside of that pool, and that way it mitigates a lot of his damage.
You're right, and also the card still does damage when he's lurking, so he can't stealth as easily. It's just consistent damage that you can output, but also it's just more sustain. Like, you get poked quite heavily by a Jormungandr in the laning phase. You don't even have to cancel out his abilities if you don't want to. You just heal back up after the facts and you'll be okay.
The Erlang Shen again, and it looks like the Erlang Shen took a lot of damage from Supernova yet again. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, the real Erlang Shen is putting the hurt onto JeffHindla. Aqua, Andy, and Cyno still here, though, so this fight's not over yet for SK.
Yeah, they could potentially set it around Space Station Gaming here, and that ult from Cyno could really set them up.
It was andinster's damage, though, that put them into kill threshold. Cyno gets the kill credit, but that one was all Andy. Next up is Cyno, who's in some trouble. Does have some backup here from
tower.
It's not going to be enough. NeilMah gets the credit.
And now Andy coming back into the fray, trying to use the ultimate out of Jeff to get some more damage up, but he's presented himself to Belair, who just didn't have the cooldowns to find the kill. Taunt after the fact onto him from Jeff. He's allowing Aquarius to keep beating him up, but it's still a Zhong, and Neil just limp back to base. That whole fight, John, really comes back to the fight in the duo lane, Zap versus BaRRa. We didn't get to see it on the screen, but I'm almost certain Jeff was looking for an ult towards BaRRa to help him out over there.
Right.
And SK initiated him at the same time and took the pick down onto Jeff. It's really well played.
BaRRa's going Warlock Staff in the duo lane.
Health, baby.
I mean, yeah, that is what the item does for sure.
It does.
But I mean, we just don't see that a whole lot, especially not on these hunters, right? I mean,
No.
it's real slow.
It is a slow build-up, and that's one of the things that we've seen less of as time's gone on in these stacking items. And Warlock Staff has had a lot of iterations over the years.
It has.
From the days of the Sash. But like, I don't know why we randomly changed things. I guess it is because it looks
It
like
does
a
taint
staff.
and turns into a whole different item. I think it's because the rest of the tree were staffs, right? Or something like that, and it was more
And they're like,
that.
here's a stick that becomes a belt.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
okay, logic. But yeah, the stacking item on Warlock Staff here, it takes a long time to get online. It is a nice chunk of health and a nice chunk of power, but the ramp up time is just so long and can present yourself into an awkward spot. That's a good play from SK there, just getting that pyro.
Good call, and they grab the Pyromancer for themselves. Perhaps BaRRaCCuDDa just recognizing that, I mean, I'm going to be over here, I should stack something. Thoth might not have looked particularly appealing, so he goes for this Warlock Staff instead.
It's also detracting Zap from trying to get aggressive towards him too, because Zap's going to need more damage to get through the health pool that's going to continue to grow in this lane. So sure, maybe BaRRa gets poked out a bit, but he'll be healthier and healthier, and health is one of the best stats in the game. at the moment. And I want to make that very clear. A lot of people are underestimating how useful health is at the moment.
It is pretty good, and it's in a lot of places. You can get healthy pretty easily nowadays, I feel like. So
Yes.
it is a very strong item.
But also, how do you deal with health builds? There's only
Kins,
2 items.
Soul Reaver.
And how often are we seeing those picked right now?
Not as much anymore. We might not see much more of Zapman either. He turns to the Erlang Shen. It lets him reposition. Cyno makes up into the air with his ultimate, but he'll be low when he lands. Paul makes him the lowest he can be, and that's a kill, but Aqua answers back, and Sam for Soccer's gone. But this is Belair doing all the Zhong things,
help.
recalling demons.
He did a lot of work there, Belair, but he needs support and gets it from Zap at the tail end with the kill onto Andy. BaRRa will at least take him down in trade, so it's a 3 for 2. But it might not be done just yet.
I don't think so. SK Gaming can absolutely keep pushing in. Zapman lurking around the corner to cut off BaRRaCCuDDa, but I think at this point Space Station might have safely made it out, unless BaRRaCCuDDa's just happy to take some extra trades here. But SK Gaming win that fight pretty well, and I think that's almost all Belair. What work he did.
Little bit awkward there from SK at the tail end of that fight, though. You know when we said we're not done yet, they may look for more kills, they set up for it. But I think the way Space Station played that, they should have potentially gone for a Gold Fury there. Fury was available for them. They had a Medusa. They had a tank. They had the ability to take down a gold and went for kills instead. I think that was a dropped opportunity from SK, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too, and especially because they didn't even really pull the trigger on a kill attempt there because of the way that Aqua and BaRRa did a good job splitting up. Now Gold Fury being looked at by Space Station. SK Gaming have to come in and play catch-up. Very few ultimates available to SK right now as well to try and contest this. Belair comes in on the backside. SK
Stole it.
strip away the objective. It might cost Belair his life, but it's 1 for 1. Cyno goes down 2.
And now Jeff, after the fray, should fall unless he dashes back to safety. Root on BaRRa's good, and Zap will get a double kill. Andy's in the mix, but remember, he's only an AMC, so he's going to manually walk away. Luckily enough, he at least dissuaded Sam from continuing. I think Sam would have gone for the kill with the support of his team if they didn't get the Gold Fury. But the win was definitely there. The teleport in was huge from Belair. Made a big difference again.
And he's played this Zhong very, very well in these few engagements that we've seen him in. I mean, recall demons onto 3 on the back. That's so much damage.
How often is it that a team's got 10 kills and your solo lane has been involved in 8 but doesn't have a kill credit for any of them?
Pretty rare.
That's crazy.
Andinster tries to catch out NeilMah in the middle lane, had JeffHindla coming in, but in the end makes it out of there A-okay.
And that's the thing I'm saying, like Belair, 8 assists at 14 minutes? You think you're playing Assault or something at this stage, right, with how crazy this has been?
And there has been some involvement over in solo, but not as much as last game. There's been a good amount of dual lane fights as well, and he's managed to be a part of those too. So Belair is one that I didn't give a lot of credit to SK's rise to last year, Season 5. I thought it was mostly Sam and Paul, and that for the most part Belair's kind of along for the ride. But I do think he's kind of stepped up for them. The solo lane pool is so stacked, and he's been hanging with them.
And that's a funny thing, when we talk about Sam and Paul in their position last year and how well they did, Belair was in the same position the year before that.
Right.
Funny enough. So he went through his rookie year and was like, yo, Scary D's really good, man. And then he has a normal year, right? His second year. And everyone's like, well, he's not living up to X. And now this year, he's like, well, he's been a very solid and consistent member of this team.
Yep.
It goes round.
It goes in these ways. You're not
Expect
wrong.
if Sam and Paul continue to play into next season, for example, or in the second half, that they may ramp up to Belair and we're like, yes, they're a consistent performer time and again, you know?
And that, I mean, so much of it is like expectations and based on some of the other play.
And fans are fickle.
And how much is that, how much are aberrations and how much is just the norm. All of that stuff gets normalized the more that we see. And so, I mean, clearly we've got 50 very strong players in the FPL, right? So even if we say someone's struggling, it's only just to so much of a degree.
Credit where it's due to Cyno this game, actually, just looking at his build coming through. I really like this Witchblade pickup from him. It's not something you see too often on an assassin in the jungle, but in this game specifically, when you look at the opposition is against Paul,
Erlang,
Zap, and Erlang, this is going to make an impact in these fights for his team, but also gives him some important health too to try and keep him alive a little bit longer. I like it. It's very situational, but if you've not got a frontline tank in Aquarius, he needs it.
Good Petrify from Paul that shuts down Neil and his follow-up and puts out some good damage. Aqua goes into the World Serpent ultimate there. I'm not sure if he thought he was in trouble on that one because there wasn't much change for follow-up.
No, I think he was looking for further follow-up there, but I think NeilMah's ultimate on that Terra was just enough to be like, there's no kill here. It's not worth the investment. I think the main thing of playing against the Terra is when you hear that ultimate, try not to take the fight, not allow them to get the heal and the extra damage off on the targets that are around them. Just wait it out, and sometimes the waiting out can cause you issues like a Pyromancer.
BaRRaCCuDDa has not rotated to this, by the way. SK has all 5 members on the right side, and Bear is going to keep pushing this duo tier 1 tower. Pyromancer goes down, but this is a chance for young man Bear to at least answer back some. But with NeilMah in base, he probably won't be able to get this tier 2. Even Zapman rotating over as well.
Yeah, he's just going to get those stacks and fall back with that Warlock Staff more than anything else. Nearly at full capacity of the Warlock Staff, though, mine. So not too bad considering when you look at the Book of Tough Zap's got online. It's about equal pace.
Bumbus for Zapman. I mean, not too big a surprise, right, on the Morrigan. This item has become somewhat core for her. Just got to make sure you're careful, man. You're taking a lot of extra damage with it, despite how much you're zooming.
I think it was one of the reasons Bumbus got nerfed was mainly the Morrigan, because it had 20% really CDR on it once upon a time. Mainly, it was the mobility that was a real big gainer and loser regarding Bumbus Mask. And what happened realistically with Morrigan was her mobility and stealth was cut down a little bit in terms of how long the stealth lasted, and the mobility duration would last too, which meant that she wasn't seen for a while. But the bringing in of Bumbus Mask brought her back, and then that took a little bit of a nerf. But I still think she's in a very, very good spot now.
I mean, remember, there was a time when the prevailing theory was that Morrigan should be played in the jungle, like that she had almost an assassin's kit for like when she first came out, and people were stealthing around and trying to get that stun at short range and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of value on it if you can play it right.
Agreed, and that's what anyone who sees stealth in a game immediately thinks this guy is there to jump on you when you
stealth
least
into close
expect
range stun. That, I mean, that does seem very assassin.
It does. And to be fair, the longer Smite's gone on, the more you've seen change-ups in terms of the iteration of gods. It's not just, you are a hunter, you must auto-attack things.
Right.
You are a mage, you must glass cannon something. Like, there's a lot more fluidity to the roles these days, and you can see that with how people are actually playing them in the Pro League.
Yeah, somewhere out there, Tom is talking about how roles don't matter and all that stuff.
I mean, he would be like, chucking mid lane, baby. I call it forever, you know? Like, God, chucking mid. It's still not good.
You might not be a fan of it, but you know what? Someone somewhere is fragging with it right now. Probably not, actually.
Probably not. I think you're telling porcupines.
They're healing, though.
It's not the weekend, Finch, when the randomness comes into play.
BaRRaCCuDDa yet again gets help from JeffHindla. Zapman's not going to be able to find a 1v1 here. The Maggai's Cloak, again, from turning into Sam, keeps him in a good spot there.
You know, the more this is happening, though, Finch, the more that SK can start to abuse this situation. If Zap's going to get aggressive on BaRRa and get the ult out of Jeff every time, that creates a 4v3 on the different part of the map. So as SK can actually play through this, and maybe Zap's not just going for kills here. The fact that he's been going into Erlang Shen every time is giving the idea that he's just trying to bait out the fights a little bit more, bait out some ultimates in response, and disposition SSG in their game plan.
That's right. As Zapman tries to move in and find a stun, will settle for some damage instead. SK Gaming have forced out JeffHindla's ultimate and the beads from BaRRaCCuDDa thanks to Zapman's presence in lane. But it looks like they've largely given up on this Oni Fury for now. They're just moving away. Yeah,
they're just trying to work out what the best situation will be. Zap not being in a position to do anything. But now that he's got that ultimate out of Jeff, Taunt on Zap, gets the beads. You say Jeff's always here, but there's farm there too, so he's got to be, and he's already level 11, so he does need this farm at the same time.
Sure. I'm just saying, man, there's no other support hunter combo like this.
I think everybody looks at BaRRaCCuDDa and goes, "You're so lucky, man. You're so lucky. If I could have a personal babysitter the whole time, I'd love it." He gives you your other farm. He's always there when you need him, and when he's not there, it's because he's dead trying to save somebody else. You know, it's not a terrible spot.
Not at all. I mean, JeffHindla, one of our truest supports, it feels like, that we've ever had. I used to put Ionic in that same category too, man. He plays a lot, very just true support for the team. So, you know, always a treat to get to watch Jeff play.
When we say true support, it's all to do with more anything else. Is, are you on peel focus? Are you a damage dealer?
Right.
Or are you a player for the game? And
like, Aurora feels like another solo laner, right?
For sure.
As andinster's in some trouble already, very, very low. Belair gets the kill on the BaRRa first. andinster falls afterwards. Aqua does make it up into the Jormungandr ultimate, so will certainly live. But who's going to help JeffHindla? He could channel Defender of Olympus to maybe make it out of here, but at this point, there's just no time. He's dead to rights.
Yeah, dies under the tower. Meanwhile, Golden Fury being done, I should say, because it's going to be an Oni Fury this time for SK Gaming. They're starting to run away with this once again. It's the level lead that's starting to make a big difference. Pretty much 1 or 2 levels up in every position for SK Gaming. They're having a fantastic... I just wish SK could have done this earlier in the year, you know? Because they did at the start. They had a real rough dip in terms of their performances. And I know they weren't happy with how they were playing and they felt they could do better. It just feels like it's coming too late in this phase for them to make it really work for them.
The margins are just so small nowadays. I mean, just a couple small mistakes can really hurt you against all these strong teams. I think SK have been the ones that have felt that a couple of times. But in this game in particular, doesn't it feel like you don't know what it is Space Station want to do? With SK, they're spreading the map out really well, forcing stuff, and then fighting around this really nuts team fight that they've drafted for themselves. I mean, Space Station haven't looked like they knew how to respond.
Well, that's always been the issue with Space Station Gaming. They kind of they will play to the current meta, but if the meta is always being changed or it's not really been identified for the year yet, they do struggle. They've changed and brought Cyno in to try and give them some pressure. But Cyno's having a hard time too adjusting to this way of life, it feels.
This might be better for Cyno though to find Belair, sets up for andinster to put in the last shot necessary. So it will be the 5v4. Favoring Space Station Gaming with that. They're going to go right to the FGs. Here's them doing something affirmative to try and win this game. But look where Sam is looping all the way around to the back. They've got a lot to worry about. This will not be an easy confirm for Space Station at all. Now comes the Frenzy, and BaRRaCCuDDa needs some help. JeffHindla is the one that falls first, and SK Gaming have shut this down.
I love this play from SK. They just relaxed. They didn't panic in that situation, and now they get to continue the aggression after the fact.
Immediate response by going into the Medusa. Paul gets kill on andinster. In comes Zapman to get Cyno, a double kill for Paul. Here's the real Jormungandr, this time Aqua, but he doesn't have any friends left to help. It's a 4v1. What a swing this team made. That was without Belair entirely.
Desperation is what I want to say from SSG's point of view. Sure, they get the kill on Zhong and then go, Fire Giant. Well, if you look at what the state of the Fire Giant was, Frenzy wasn't available for JeffHindla at that moment in time. It was still on cooldown for 20 seconds. And when NeilMah gets to walk up and just ult and go, Frenzy, you're going to have a hard time and have to reset the Fire Giant. And then SK Gamer just like, okay, they're off the Fire Giant, let him take the incidental damage, we'll work out. Notice how patient Sam was. He could have just charged in like a madman, but instead he's like, nope, I'm going to wait for the right opportunity, wait for my teammates to show up, and then we'll work as a unit. SK played that amazingly.
And we hadn't seen Zap turn to the Jormungandr yet. It's been almost exclusively Erlang Shen. But in that fight, he turned into the Jorm, and it was really, really strong for him.
Yeah, it did help out. I didn't actually realize it turned into the Jorm in that situation.
Was, yeah.
But at least it worked out well for them, you know, in the grand scheme of things. 17-8 SK Gaming now lead, and that gold lead is huge. 12,000 at 23 minutes. Basically, it's 500 gold a minute ahead.
That's a lot. Is that good, Hindu? I feel like that's good.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
What if you think about how many wards you can place with 500 gold?
Not me. I play Hunter, so I've never thought about how many wards I can place.
Belair's having fun. He gets to go up in the air, see the sights, and die, and keep the whole team busy while his team takes a Phoenix on the left-hand side. I ain't too upset.
I don't think they'll do it with just two of them. If everyone from SK had been over there, that'd have been great, but...
Not brave enough.
Instead, I mean, it was just
That's a different Zapman from Season 1 for sure, right? Like, he would have gone for that. Although, to be fair, he would have been Apollo, and he would have split pushed and ulted away. That's what would have happened. Where is Apollo, guys? Someone needs to bring him out again.
He's not that great, you know, or something like that.
I mean, he's really good for global
The last
pressure.
time I looked at the numbers, he was the least winningest Hunter, right below Hoi.
What a time to be alive where Churn and Apollo are being played.
Right, with all that rotational ability.
Yeah.
Oh well. Turns out it doesn't help. We don't want Hunters right now.
We don't want global presence is what it feels like to me. That's what it seems to be the call. It's like everyone's like, no, semi-globals and globals aren't that good. We'll see a splash of Ratatoskr here and a cheeky little Athena there. But other than that, no, global pressure doesn't mean anything.
Not anymore. SK still have the FG buff, but where will they choose to go to try and apply that pressure? Belair is just now returned to us. He can choose to teleport in if he'd like, or just to walk. It looks like he will waddle, but this tier tower in mid, no way Space Station's defending that.
We'll point you out real quick that Aquarius and Jormungandr, it's an interaction that you don't get to see too often because there's not too many stealthy targets, but Aquarius, while he's lurking, he can keep an eye on what Zapman's up to. And as long as Zap recognizes that himself, it's important because he can get himself in a bit of a tricky spot. If he thinks he's unspotted and then the whole team turn on him, as Aquarius could call out the position that he's in.
Wow, SK are playing very patiently with this FG right now, not really pushing into any Phoenixes. Instead, might want to be here for this Fury. It's only 15 seconds away from respawning. They can grab that, spin their gold, and maybe have time for one more push, but at this pace, they won't have a ton of time with the actual buff.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure why they've chosen to take a back step from it. Maybe at the moment I can see all the minions are pushed up, but no one's really pressuring these minions out in any of the lanes. So it doesn't signify to me that they're going to look for a Phoenix off this Fire Giant. I mean, there's still a good minute left with it, but it's going to take them a while to push these minions down, and at least 2 lanes to provide enough pressure to not make Space Station defenders a full 5-man unit. However, you've also got to take into account Space Station's composition here, Finch. Their wave clear is really strong and really safe in the most part. Sol, AMC, and even the Ring Toss can come into play to clear out the waves. You need to catch Space Station Gaming out in the open, out in the jungle. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they're trying to leave the minions in the mid lane here, SK. Bring Space Station out and catch them out in the open.
Looks like they will indeed be settling for fighting around this Fire Giant pit, though. And Space Station are down so much gold. Can they afford to come out and fight around this next FG? You think so? They can't fight at Phoenix?
They have to come out to mid lane because that's where all the minions are. How do they get farmed?
I guess
We're like,
you're right.
they're behind in gold and experience. Sure.
Maybe that's the idea from SK, is to kind of starve Space Station to that safe farm, man.
And that's the main plan here. Is now Jeff, bit of an awkward spot as he was trying to get some wards down. Zapman might be able to catch Aqua.
Certainly is able to land a
Goodbye.
stun. Aqua can't even make it into the ult. The worm's gone already. 5v4 now for SK Gaming. Interestingly enough, these solo laners have been getting picked a little bit here these last few minutes.
And at the same time, taking into account, Jormungandr really susceptible. Once he's hard CC'd, he takes even more damage. And the setup from someone like Zapman is a huge big window to have the follow, and he needs some help. Great wall from Neil. Even better ult from Paul.
So much damage from Medusa in the middle lane. Now Zapman here all of a sudden. Belair as well. BaRRaCCuDDa's ultimate does bring Paul quite low and cut off some of the reinforcements, but SK Gaming still here in full force up against 3 members. They're ready to push even without the FG.
Right, Phoenix, I think it would be the call here for them now, and that's the game plan, is bring them out, take a couple of members down, make it trickier to defend. The only problem is that 2 of these are still good at clearing minions.
And Paul is still low, so he's got to be careful, but Cyno is the target left-hand side. Sam and Belair run him down. JeffHindla ends up falling too as Belair cuts off his escape path, and now it's just BaRRaCCuDDa left. Right side Phoenix melts to the ground, and SK Gaming should be able to move in and end this one. In fact, even turning into the Jormungandr.
They might be able to defend here, Finch. I'm just a little bit concerned SK Gaming could overcommit to this.
We'll see.
Respawns could come through in a few seconds. They've got to get the damage on the Titan soon. Remember, there's no minions involved in this too.
They're a bit low. This might not be
Little
as free
risky.
as SK Gaming were hoping, but that's a big
Guys,
miss from
it's
Bob.
fine now. It's
Catches
fine now.
Aqua and BaRRaCCuDDa, and there you go. That should be the game. What a shot from Paul. He's had himself a game. SK Gaming now up 2-0.
And it was a good play from them, honestly, overall. I think a lot of people are like, why are they not ending? And that was the real talking point, was the defense at Phoenix Sieges was very good from Space Station. If you put them on a Phoenix Siege, they'll stand up. But if you can whittle them down to not have the full 5-man crew, take out some of the front line, you put themselves in a disastrous position. And that's where SSG is right now, a disastrous position.
Yes, and this would send them into the break between Phase 1 and 2 with a ton of summer homework. And it's something that you never want to hear, either when you're in school or here now. But they've got a lot of stuff they clearly need to clean up on. I mean, really, at this point, if they lose this set, it only puts them above LG and Trifecta.
It's funny because when we say summer homework like that, I mean, if it's a real summer homework, you leave
Yeah,
it till the
I
very
mean,
last
literally.
day, right? But I don't think Space Station Gaming could go through the summer and go, they've got summer homework, and leave it to the last day before the
Right.
season starts. They're going to have to grind the whole... Summer camp is coming.
That's right. It's
That's
going to be
what's happening.
it is basically going to be a bit of a summer camp for those guys. They're going to have to hit the grindstone to get up to the level where some of these other teams are. They have that potential there, but we just have not seen it yet. And to be fair, potential only means so much. You know, I mean, at a certain point, you got to
Sure.
go cash those chips in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to go, well, there's no chips left. That's the operation that happens.
How much do those chips do you if you just keep them as chips? How much
Sorry?
good do they do you? If you just keep those chips and never cash them
They look good, right?
in? They don't do anything.
That's
right?
about it. You could flaunt them off a little bit. Look at all my chips. But they don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things.
That's right.
Honestly, hopefully SSG can battle back in this next game. It's
Yes.
still not over just yet. It's a best of 5. Maybe they make something happen.
Well, let's get it back over to the desk. We'll have them break down the set.
The breakdown of the set is SK Gaming are winning. Space Station Gaming, too much dip of the chip. Can't really figure this one out. Just outplayed and outdrafted, outgunned. What was the word Hindu Man used? Devastating?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what Hindu says half the time anyway.
Same.
I can't understand him. But
Same.
I think a lot of the success from SK Gaming came to the 2 side laners, both Belair and Zapman, between the Zhong and also the Morrigan. I think that looking at how tanky the Zhong was allowed them the success, but the squishiness of Zapman, he's playing as if he's the tank. He's playing aggressive, right? He's making those 19-minute plays where he's diving in 1v2 and because he's transforming into Erlang. He's looking for the escape factor, using the Mad Guy's cloak that Sam built so he doesn't have to use the purification beads for himself.
That was next level, and man, we're on the same page. I was literally going to lead you into that because the mechanics that Zap was doing was incredible.
And the opposite side lane, Belair coming in literally last second, teleporting blinking in, stealing that gold area where SK
this
got
is
a 3 for 2. And then the flank happens where both of the side laners comes in, groups up, takes out BaRRaCCuDDa, takes out andinster. I want to talk about andinster a little bit longer as well because his positioning was yet again struggling on the Muzen comp, putting himself so far out of position against so many people that have blink between not only Belair, Zhong, but also Stanford Soccer's Erlang, Shen's blink.
That team fight that we just, that was the last straw. I think
Yes.
that you, no matter where you were, even on Space Station, I think you go, it's over now.
Yeah.
Like, that was so devastating. Shoutouts to Belair, even, going back last year, streaky, spotty. These are the words that I used to describe him. But when he makes an impact, this guy really stands up.
The individual performance is definitely shining for not only Belair, Zapman, and everyone else from SK Gaming, but you got to look at the way they played that game as a whole. That team effort was very impressive. Their shot calling of knowing when Belair has to teleport in, knowing how to invade the red buff from Space Station Gaming, knowing precisely the flank maneuvering that they had to implement to really catch Space Station Gaming slipping and abuse the positioning from andinster because he's playing an immobile Muzen comp.
I'm going to toss something your way, Toli.
Sure.
I'm not sold on it, but I'm going to toss the idea your way. SK Gaming coming into this season dummy hot, right? And it's the same team that we saw from last year.
Yep.
They come in the season dummy hot. They win against teams. People are like scratching their heads. They slowly start to fall off, though. Here, we haven't seen them play in almost a month, and they're looking dummy hot. My question is, does this team just do better when they have more time in between sets?
Well, it's been 2 weeks since they last played against Rival, and I think this is a combination of, yes, SK Gaming are playing better now than they were against Renegades and Rival, and a second of abusing a crippled Space Station roster that's definitely struggling of finding their identity, finding what works for them. So I got to still give credit to SK Gaming, though, because they are coming in really hot as if they are at the beginning of the split. Like we talked about at the beginning of the desk segment, how despite losing to PK 0-3, it didn't look like an 0-3 loss, and taking it to all 5 games against Dignitas. SK Gaming are definitely an elite team that has to be considered as a true threat. Despite this was the roster from Trifecta in Season 5 where they lost to Insignum that first round because they played to their competition, but this one is kind of the opposite. They're not playing towards Space Station standards because SK would play way worse if that was the case. And despite losing to Insignum in Season 5, they made it to Worlds. They beat out, E United as well to get to that next round. So this is a team that has to be respected because they are a huge threat. Their strategies are very nice.
Well, they're up 2-0. They're looking to make it 3-0. We'll get into the picks and bans here. Space Station will have the first selection. And looking at SK, and last note on game number 2 there is, there's a winner and there's a loser in every game. We spent a lot of time talking about the winners. But SSG rather, Cyno, I put a lot of weight on his shoulders because I think the team put a lot of weight on his shoulders, and I just think that the man didn't do it. Najah's a character. It's a team game.
Yes.
Najah's a character that can spin out of control with little assistance from the squad, and he just wasn't able to do that. And I'm not saying it's all Cyno's fault, but the strategy was play through the jungle, and we didn't see that.
No, he had to adapt to SK strategies, and that definitely represented by his build, going into Brawler Speedstick and then Witchblade on a Najah very early in that build. This is a little surprising because it's not the hyper carry Najah you're expecting from your Season 5 Worlds MVP, by the way, right? So he needs bigger impact to get Space Station Gaming motivated, like get them their blood boiling, I think. And that was a great opportunity for him to maybe abuse Zapman. Not doing it in the early game allows SK that team fight potential.
So you're saying bring back Motivate?
No.
Muzen Cobb, the first pick here for SSG. Shout out to all the old heads out there that remember Motivate. Terra and the Morrigan, totally still sighing out of.
Because I'm remembering facing off against Zapman at PAX East, where it was him, Pon, Sparks the best, and they just abused that Motivator Relic, and I hated him for it. Well, they didn't do it against us, to be fair, but we had to worry about it, for sure.
You definitely had to worry about it. What a fun time. Terra and the Morrigan, though, same thing that SK went with in game number 2, and I really can't fault him for it. Game number 2 was fantastic. Zapman played the hell out of the Morrigan, and really, really is impressive. You know, it's fun. What I like about the Morrigan is obviously she's a very difficult character, not only because you have to play her, but play everyone else on the map. And very rarely do we get a chance to see a bad Morrigan. We see Zeros, we see Moswall, we see Zapman, and all three of these guys play out of their mind. Moswall was able to like switch to a Terra mid-team fight to use the double dash. Zapman switches to a teammate who has a Magi's cloak. Like, these micro thought processes are really fun to see come to fruition.
And I'm expecting that to be a repeat of something synergetic with Sanford Soccer. Not having Erlang Shen this time around to bail him out. Maybe go for a Robin now for Sanford Soccer. There's another great escape mechanic. Starcat is another one that you could potentially go as long as you're not getting crippled. That could be a good escape path.
The Robin was banned out by Space Station last time around. They're sniffing the same thing you are there. So
Possibly.
we'll see if that's going to be the case. Uller banned out here. One of Paul's go-to, and something Zapman has obviously made a name for himself on. So if the Morrigan, for example, doesn't go back to Zap, which is always a possibility, the Ull is a nice kind of double ban here for 2 players.
And who knows, honestly, SK can easily just still stick Morrigan onto Paul's hands and then have Zapman play his traditional physical hunter if he really wants to, depending on how they want to start the game. Do they want to get Zapman rolling early or more late game focused like the ROM?
Is that a wireless mouse that Cyno's using?
I didn't actually notice.
That's crazy.
Is it like the...
Oh, it's a wired mouse. Okay. I've never seen a gamer with a wireless mouse. There's, I think technology is there now, but once upon a time, I still don't trust it.
I used to use one like way back when. Like, I'm talking 2004, 2005.
Well, yeah, before you knew better.
Yeah. I thought I was like dope though. I was like, oh, yeah, I got a wireless mouse. Feel great.
I had my MX-18.
Yeah, that's a good one. MX-518.
That's the classic.
Yeah.
That is the absolute classic.
The Logitech 3.0 is another good one.
Mm-hmm.
The G5.
The throwbacks, man.
That's my favorite, actually, the G5.
Nah, I'm a 518 guy forever. Medusa for SK Gaming. And still, it doesn't tell us if the Morrigan winds up mid or left.
Doesn't at all. Jormungandr, Medusa, Morrigan. I'm expecting Medusa probably in Paul's hands, Morrigan for Zap. Zhong being banned away by SK Gaming, so we'll see where Belair opts to go, but it tends to be the Jormungandr this time around, with Terra being for NeilMah, playing it all 3 games.
Sam's going to have a very interesting jungler, well, Sam's going to have a very interesting jungler. Whether it's the Morrigan or not is a different story.
That's true.
Athena and Osiris being chosen here, or selected, thought about. Athena will come through. I like that. Athena worked out well for Space Station last time around. What little they did kind of win was really off of Athena ult and taunts.
I want to talk about this Osiris pick because Aqua needs to play aggressive early. He got heavily out-pressured in the second game because of the proxy farming from Belair. He lost his tier 1 tower very early. There was a 4 disparity count in the Totem of Coups. Belair getting the better end of Aqua in this set.
Last choice, Pele here for SK Gaming. That'll be the jungler. And so it'll be a fairly straightforward situation here for SK Gaming, similar to what we saw last time around. Space Station, on the other hand. Do you like this draft a little bit better or a little bit worse?
I like this draft better, but I want to see the Soul being played for andinster because he's heavily getting focus fired in both of the games. Soul a little bit easier in surviving those ganks.
I agree. I think that that's a nice look there. And Erlang Shen, I think, is a better look for Cyno here. Naja might have some better upside, but the downside, Erlang Shen, on the other hand, a little bit more in the middle. SK Gaming and trying to take it to the top. We'll see if it happens. Hindu and John bring us the action.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, totally. SK Gaming couldn't have the Erlang Shen this time for some pressure, so instead they're going to go with the Pele to give them still plenty of early pressure. Still works.
First 4 picks of this game were all SK's game plan from game 1, game 2. So, bit of a switch up here. You know what? If I'm SSG, though, and I'm looking at this composition SK have drafted, I might give BaRRaCCuDDa AMC if I think it's going to be Zap or Morrigan again.
Really?
I would probably go the AMC route. Sure, you lose a bit of pressure in the mid lane, but I can see that working out for them.
Well, Paul's Medusa was so oppressive last time, though. I feel like you'd want something that can try and stand toe-to-toe with him, and maybe that's why they elected to leave AMC there. I mean, as long as they have the Athena, BaRRaCCuDDa should be fine in this matchup. I mean, we saw what Jeff was willing to do last time.
I was kind of in the opinion like the bees will make sure you can't stealth as easy, the honey causes problems, and then if he does get all in, well, beads, stinger, turn it around, and also have still JeffHindla in his back pocket on the Athena to maybe turn it around.
Sure.
But I understand why they've gone with this. Obviously, mid-bit pressure focus early on, very important. Andy did take the hive at level 1 last time round. I don't think he'll do the same thing this time round.
That's right. He took the hive, I remember.
Swarm would have been definitely better in that situation because it really upsets his clear early on, and that can already put you at a deficit at the beginning of the game anyway. And there we go! Swarm this time. Paul's like, wait, he's not attacking me as fast this time.
And not moving nearly as quickly either, as Paul was willing to take the auto trade with Andy last time, but we won't be seeing that happen now. And this is curious from Space Station because really this stuff did not work for them last time. I wonder what they think has changed enough. Is it Aqua here on the Osiris that maybe can switch things around? Is it that they don't have to worry maybe about SMITE on the same god?
Yeah.
I mean, are those the adjustments that they're thinking?
I mean, they took 2 gods away, technically, from the grand scheme of things, right? Well, at least they tried to. They take away the Erlang Shen was the priority one for them.
Right.
They obviously didn't want to have Paul on the AMC to deal with, so they took that for themselves after game 1. Follow through with it again. It's interesting to see that the AMC was the priority pick in this game, and that did present the option of this Jormungandr Morrigan pickup in response. Obviously, Morrigan pickup in response isn't, I'm sorry, it wasn't Jorm, was it? It was Terra, funny enough.
Right.
Because I think the Terra pick might have been a bigger situational change for Space Station Game in this game. Because I think Neil has had a very solid series on this Terra so far.
He does look good on it. Like you said, he's one of those ones that can play this one to a really high level. And Neil plays it so differently. In the last game, he was willing to go up and use Earth and Fury, use the ultimate only on the enemy team, which I think is actually not a horrible idea. It does so much for your team, and you definitely want that. But when you can make them all so much weaker for the rest of the fight, they don't even want to step up. And he recognizes those movements, I think, as well as anyone.
Talk about recognition there. You saw that dash taunt from Jeff in the mid lane, and notice how Paul did not panic. Didn't beads, didn't even try and run away, just like slowly backstep going, okay, I knew the abilities were on cooldown, you wouldn't have kill potential there. And on top of that, you also had Neil right next to him, and if you can save your beads and get your support to use a Radic instead, why not, right?
Exactly.
But Cyno, early gank left.
He's definitely hanging around Zapman, who seems to have recognized he's in trouble, though the Fatalis effect was there, and the Stellar Burst was almost enough, but Zapman lives, even used beads just in case. I wonder if Knockup does more there onto Zapman than the Mink.
The Fatality, he needed the extra shots. I don't think the knockup would have been enough in the grand scheme of things. The extra shots from the Mink was helping him out for sure. The more important thing is Zap has just used the last of his potions there in that laning phase. So Zap will have the base relatively soon. This is giving some pressure to that dual lane.
It's definitely a valuable gank, even though they don't get the kill. Beads are on cooldown for Zapman, as you said. His potions forced out as well. He does not get to feel comfortable for free over here in this matchup any longer. By this point, remember, Zapman had already found a kill over here because BaRRa and Cyno went so aggressive in the jungle. So this already looking much better for BaRRaCCuDDa.
Yeah, but it's already telegraphed a little bit. Because of what happened in game 2 and the situation there in the dual lane, it wasn't a surprise to see Cyno pay attention to it again. I like the fact that Cyno's trying to relieve some pressure early onto BaRRaCCuDDa and then get him to that stride where he can just, stellar burst the wave and it'll be fine. But right hand side, blue buff invade.
SK Gaming yet again, pressure on this blue buff, and Aqua will be the one that pays for it with his life. SMITE takes him down. They, at the very least, though, defend the buff, but it cost them Aqua's life.
It's almost like my voice pack would have been perfect there. There's nothing he could have done there. Like, there really wasn't anything he could have done in that situation. He basically...
Oh, is that what your voice pack says?
Yeah.
I only...
It says a lot of other stuff, too, but they took a lot of lines out,
I really only use, like, tacos, so I wouldn't know what yours says.
Yeah, that's bad.
I'll use Bart or something like... Just someone really good,
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah.
You're supposed to roast me because I don't even have one, Hindu.
It's not
what are you doing?
But you believe me. I'm punching down. Like, come on.
You're an avid down puncher.
I don't like doing it all the time, especially to people way below me.
Oh, I
Like,
see.
there's a
It's
big
too
difference.
far down. Can't even reach. Gotcha.
Come on.
Yeah, great point, Hindu. Yeah. I can't wait to go home and put on literally anyone else's announcer pack. I'll listen to the everyone over you.
Keep roasting. You won't get any more gems in your account to buy those voice packs.
That's literally all I get, by the way. I don't even get money. I just need those gems. That's
all I get, too.
BaRRaCCuDDa in trouble yet again, but Zapman can't quite do enough. This time, no Defender of Olympus came through just because Jeff wasn't high enough level. That would have been the best time, though, but now Zapman going to be caught out by Cyno.
Maybe it depends if the minions spot him. Is Zap paying attention to the minimap? Nope. And he'll pay attention to it now. Stun available. Pin is beautiful. Cyno played that well.
Yeah, that knockup was really
done a good job. Speed buff,
dead.
however, is going to be enough.
No, it isn't.
No,
Zapman makes it out. The
Boots
minions
3,
save
baby.
him. You love it. Able to make it back out of there. What a play. I mean, really, the knockup was so well timed from Cyno too. That feels like one of those games that you think should have gone the right way. Just unfortunately didn't get it.
Yeah, Cyno was really just trying to play around the stun well, but to be fair, Zap also played around his own stun very well and realized the damage situation. If BaRRa was there, it was definitely a kill, but at the same time, BaRRa did need to base at the same time. It's unfortunate. In the grand scheme of things, it is a drop kill, though. Should have been killed.
You have to wonder about all this time Cyno is spent over there in the duo lane. BaRRa doesn't really have a lead. He is a bit behind Sam, just now hitting level 6. I mean, has it been valuable enough for him, this presence he's had in duo in this early game so far when they haven't even been able to really find anything just yet?
Jeff gets hit by the walls, has to shell afterwards. Torn onto Neil's good. Aqua's there too. And Aqua should be able to get NeilMah, and Cyno's actually going to join in, but there's Sam to support.
Nice knockups that comes through, and the taunt is not enough. Cyno gets NeilMah, but BaRRaCCuDDa's here to answer back. Volcanic Lightning says hello. That makes it 1-for-1, and they strip away the blue buff. And it was only the support that died for the jungle of SSG.
Yeah, that's an important one too. However, Cyno was wanting to go back to base anyway, so think about the knock-on effects of like, well, quick chip back to base. It saves you recalling, gets your items online
You're about to base anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever your announcer back says. Yeah, use it.
Just say, I'll just do that for the whole game. You ready?
Just do your lines in the announcer pack.
I'll even include ones that should have been in the announcer pack, but they removed.
Oh, well, don't do that. Andinster takes too much damage from the Petrify and the damage from the Pele there as well. Won't be able to pick up the Stinger, though, unfortunately, so it'll be the long time before that cooldown comes back up.
At least they can buy wards now.
That is from your announcer pack. It's so weird hearing it from you. Even though I talk to you all the time, it's weird.
I mean, I'd never really say those lines in a cast. But
no.
Now I will.
That's going to be your bit for the rest of this. That and will JeffHindla get that Quadra you promised him? Because, you know.
The nail in the coffin!
Is that one of them?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't remember as much as I thought of it.
I mean, I've actually said Mom get the camera once.
You have said that before.
Once. It took me a long time to get there, but, you know, over what?
I thought you said it before the line was in the game. Did you not say it before the line was in?
Never. It was just the idea in my head of, like, what I would do, funny enough, for funsies, and then, yeah, put it in there.
How many pinners have you casted?
2 or 3, I think. I've been involved in 2 or 3. It's not always, you know, it doesn't always fall exactly right. Nice taunt, but Neil still has his abilities up, and Jeff won't get pressure any further than that, at least for the time being.
Not even talking about casting anymore. That's just life. Doesn't always fall exactly right.
Never does.
It's rough, isn't it? Out there
You take the rough with the smooth, boys and girls. That's what you do.
Zapman yet again pushed forward in lane. This could be a bit of trouble for BaRRaCCuDDa, who does still have the Disapparate available, but Zapman has transformed and is waiting. In comes JeffHindla though with the Fit of Olympus, and Zapman has now bit off way more than he can chew.
Yeah.
BaRRaCCuDDa always has backup, it seems.
The real Erlang Shen arrived. That's what happened there. The fake one gets denounced and put down. But that's the one thing about the Soul play. BaRRa's playing it very well in all fairness. He's realizing that's Zap's whole game plan. Is Zap Soul up? Yes. Is he going to go aggressive? Answer, yes. What do I need to do? Survive and hope for a rotation. And it's working out well for Space Station, at least in the duo lane.
But look what Belair's able to do. He's moving into the jungle, stripping stuff away because he knows there's a bunch of people on left.
Funny enough, though, and Jormungandr to do that against Osiris is interesting enough to me. Aquarius really hasn't found too much pressure in this lane overall then to keep this Guardian pinned back.
SK's over there all the time. Cyno is in a whole lot of trouble. Evaporated by BaRRaCCuDDa, letting the Volcanic Lightning ring through. One more pick for SK.
And the issue really there is you saw Cyno invest the ultimate on the left-hand side, goes to mid. And SK Gaming are communicating, saying, yeah, these ults are down. Zap definitely does that at least and goes, they used all these ults on me. So they're like, well, we've got a window where they don't have ultimates, we do. We can make a play and put them in an awful situation.
And this is where I understand. You have the Athena, the Soul's very safe. Even Cyno can rotate over, so you're not going to get 1v1 in duo. But this SK team is too good to let you use that much of a response to one threat and not face threats elsewhere. And that's what they've done for these last 2 games in a row, because in game 1 they didn't have to worry about the response at all. But in games 2 and 3, they've punished them when they have answered.
Definitely. And the other thing you'll also see is that the longer the set goes on, you see the same picks. Well, everyone knows what your game plan was. So it's like, right, we need to just adjust to these factors and make decisions off the back of those. Now that we've seen what they were going to do, how do we change it? How do we correct it? I think that's one of the reasons why you see the likes of Osiris, the pick away of the Erlang Shen from Space Station Game in this game.
BaRRaCCuDDa, though, 3-0-0, all the kills on the Pele. That's why his net worth is way up at the top of the charts above even these solo laners at this point, and that is always scary for someone like a Pele.
Someone like a Pele. I mean, some of these late game assassins that can just annihilate an entire team on their own in the later stages are always worrisome when they get up to early. Kali, the original one of those. BaRRaCCuDDa, someone that can get a snowball effect that it does fall off late game BaRRaCCuDDa, whereas someone like Pele, it can really ramp even further and cause a lot of problems for your team to deal with, especially when she can resustain in the fights.
Pele very good at that. Oftentimes you see Soul Eater built on her because of how her passive works, where she is kind of a bit rewarded for going all in and then trying to box her way back out of it. That's the playstyle that Pele was designed around, and often what you'll see for some of these top-level players. As Zapman yet again aggresses onto BaRRaCCuDDa.
And Barra immediately, you notice how he immediately hits the ground with his sustain. He tries to sustain himself up and create a window, but he's playing so well. Zap's actually getting outplayed for the most part here, looking for the kills. But like I said earlier, he's drawing attention, and maybe SK could turn it off the back of the attention paid to him.
Look at that. The rest of SK Gaming are here in full force. JeffHindla has not taken too much just yet as Petrify hits nothing, but andinster isolated the middle lane, rotated in late, and SamForSoccer turned it around.
Casualty of war there at the tail end. The pin from Cyno didn't hit home onto either Neil or Sam to get him rooted in place, so the damage has been negated. But notice that was Zap getting aggressive again. 3-man Space Station Gaming trying to defend against him, and it's andinster that gets picked. This is a composition that SK know is the case of what they're playing through. They want Zap to keep playing this way so they can keep finding picks when they all turn up to try and kill him.
And he's not some rogue agent over there just attacking.
No, he is.
No, I mean, did you see the way SK responded? There were 4 of them on their way. They definitely knew.
But that was
what
Zap going, help, 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 help.
Maybe so. I'll give it 80-20 with the 20% he's a lone wolf.
But I like the playstyle, you know? I'm not against it. Zap has been known before to, like, everyone's always like, oh, he's overly aggressive. And sure, he was, but why not play to the strength sometimes, you know? People believe that's their case, so why not use it to your advantage in some way? And SK Gaming are consistently doing that, and Andy is having the worst time in this mid lane in his AMC.
No beads.
Dealing with a Terra too that's just going to constantly CC you, and then the damage after the fact from SamForSoccer and Paul is just too much to handle most of the time.
He's got a back too. He's going to miss this middle wave that's being pushed in right now, so that is a true impact that can be traced back to the pressure from NeilMah here on this Terra, and the fact he did not have beads. JeffHindla actually has a chance now to be isolated, but they don't have full-on kill potential. So they'll back off as yet again Sam and Belair aggressed into the order side jungle.
That now level 12, matching that of BaRRaCCuDDa, and the game is interesting then in the dual lane a little bit more now that the second relic comes into play. It means Barra can beads out of the stone from Zapman, but Zapman will be able to get himself potentially an Aegis this game and turn it around. But with the attention to the left-hand side from Cyno, guess what SK are doing?
They're taking the Pyromancer. I mean, it's just too much. They're having to send over to keep BaRRaCCuDDa alive in the 1v1. Now it's 3,300 gold in favor of SK. The experience still pretty close though, only about 1,700, so that part not all doom and gloom, but this is just a steady climb for SK yet again.
I'm definitely waiting for when we start to see this sort of play happen in the rank scene, where we'll see more mages in the duo lane and more hunters in the mid.
This was a great timing though. Zapman's beads still 17 seconds away. The SSG were definitely on the time for that one.
Greedy Zapman, that is. You know why?
No.
Didn't go back to base for his relic just yet, but at least he can buy wards now.
At least he can buy wards and he'll know when the ganks are coming. I mean, he was only a step or two beyond the tower. You gotta think he can feel relatively safe there, but
sure, but like
Cyno's been on this side a lot.
Not going back for your second relic is always one of those things of risk versus reward factor. He was level 13, remember? It's not like I'm saying, hey, you know, he'd only just hit level 12. He'd leveled another level and still not been back to base yet. Definitely punished for that situation there more often than not. And it was a really good play from Cyno in all fairness with that blink initiation.
Yes, very well timed from Space Station. And Zapman, of course, made that timing possible, but to who you blame and to who did well, that tier 1 tower in right is already down. Belair has had a nice bit of pressure over there thanks to SamForSoccer, who's shown quite a bit of focus on that side of the map. 4-0-0 now, even has the shifted shield finish. And remember, that threshold's up to 50% now when you get those protections. That's perfect for someone like Pele.
But I can see both teams are trying to play through the junglers, and I want to see Space Station lean into this a little bit more with Cyno in the jungle. Cyno is a playmaker for them, and that's what they want him to be. I want the other lanes of Space Station to play very passive up until the point Cyno turns up for pressure. And when he is ganking the lane, Cyno, the other lanes need to be very aware of that and cognizant, and just give up things if they have to without losing lives or objectives too. Just make sure they can protect the objective. If Cyno's in right, protect the gold. If Cyno's in left, protect the pyro.
But that's the problem. Space Station can't make an offensive call like that because Zapman threatens to solo BaRRaCCuDDa at any given moment. Cyno has to be ready to be over there to punish. And because that, it limits their options. Now andinster in trouble. Volcanic lightning hitting hard. andinster has no way out of that one. Already a 5v4.
When the jungler's a level ahead of the mid laner, you know you're going to have a bad time. That's how strong Sam is, and that's why he's starting to use his lead to the advantage. All 5 kills onto the Pele this game. SK Gaming are still looking good. They're not going for the gold just yet, which I completely understand.
Trying to bait Space Station in. Why not? They can look for another good fight, but this could be a good initiation from Space Station. NeilMah half HP, but petrified for Paul. He's been great with those all set. Does not slow down BaRRaCCuDDa, though. He burns NeilMah to a crisp.
That was a good fight from Space Station, mainly because they had a straight-up 4-on-4 fight because NeilMah was there, but Belair wasn't, and Andy was currently dead. But Gold Fury's still safe for the time being. The Fury is important at this stage, even though once again, in the first 15 minutes, there's a huge deficit in gold for SK Gaming's point of view.
Oh, SSG grabbed this one. No one from SK are around. It's already below half. The only question might be, can they make it out of the fight in time, though? Zapman also trying to throw his hat into the ring.
Oh, he got
SK strip it away. The DPS slowed down considerably. Now they'll lose JeffHindla as well. Cyno, at the very least, wants to punish them on the back end, but Aegis still available. Paul, at the very least, dies.
Lull them into a false sense of security. That's exactly what SK Gaming just did. Zap knew he was going to land it, but he should die to Andy here, unless Neil and Sam can turn it around.
Here comes Aqua, though, able to grab him, but it'll cost andinster his life too. Zapman has way too much damage at 5-0-1. Belair finds BaRRaCCuDDa. This last engagement looked like Space Station finally found a good fight, Graham, until they didn't.
And that was really Zap. I mean, the fight after the fact isn't too bad, but it's worse because they lose the Gold Fury too. It's the additional effect of that. Sure, you get the gold and you lose a couple of kills or trade out some kills there, it's not too bad. But losing both those things in terms of kills and the Gold Fury, it's unfortunate. That's the second time, I believe, the Gold Fury's been stolen in this set by SK Gaming when they didn't have a right to steal it, in my opinion.
I agree. I think Space Station maybe weren't so sure about how they wanted to bring the objective down because the DPS slowed down a good bit towards the tail end of it. Maybe as if they were saying, should we hold it here? Should we fight?
First, do we hold?
Right?
Yep.
And it seemed as if they weren't quite clear. And because of that, Zapman had enough time to come in and do a relatively safe contest that stole the objective.
I mean, take into account as well, Space Station did that while SK had the Oracles. There was Oracle's vision the entire time. A big old red beam inlet letting you know that the enemy team knows what's going on. And if they're not there to react, sure. I think you might be right, though, Finch. We'd have to look back at the replays to see what damage was invested and how much they slowed down in damage. Because sometimes it can look like they slowed down, but it might just be
cooldowns.
It could just be cooldowns, but sometimes it is because they're trying to hold the damage for the right moment. And at the end, SK get a Gold Fury.
To be fair, though, if you make it all the way that low and you don't have confirmed, that is in itself a problem, right? So, I mean I think what'll happen is we'll either just know what the error was, right? Yeah, so.
Or you've got a Kraken, right? And then, you know, it'll happen at some point. You just nobody knows when.
Man, I hate roasting on those Kraken confirms. It is tough to
It
time.
is, and that's why I find it funny, because, like, a Kraken confirm is not the easiest thing because it's got an animation cast time before detonation and damage.
And it's not hog, right? There's no threshold. You have to know exactly how much damage it is because sometimes you'll have 100 or 200 damage left.
I've got a god pitch for you, Finch. What about a god that has hog in the kit?
Where it just confirms objectives?
Give me a support. Give Bacchus that, right? Give Bacchus. Instead of his chug, his one is hog. I'm sold.
Okay, and then he just passively like builds up the drunkometer over time.
He's just drunk all the time instead, right? He's an alcoholic, you know? That's what Bacchus is.
Not a bad idea. Cyno ends up taunting, I think, the clone from Zapman on that one because it was well timed. That means the blink and the 9 turns blessing kind of wasted there in that engagement.
The next question, though, is where SK feels like they can find pressure. Sure, on the right side of the Pyromancer is good.
Yeah, here it is.
And more importantly, though, they were doing this because there's 2 members on the left-hand side trying to keep pressure onto this tier 2 tower. This is going to be a heavy commit, but Zap's ready for it, and the teleport's coming through.
And it's a lot scarier from Cyno because he knows that them 9 turns blessing. Supernova has now been committed, which means BaRRaCCuDDa is a bit of a target. Defender of Olympus is here and will make it through in time, so Zapman has to fall back, but BaRRaCCuDDa has already committed positioning and health.
So Jeff is going to come in to try and support. He's going to fall down at the tail end. Happy birthday, by the way, thanks to this play as well. Like, the Pyro's being done by SK. Space Station a 2v1 at a tier 2. They don't even get the tier 2. They don't even get a kill. They lose 2 members for it. This is just the state of SSG, unfortunately, at the end of the set.
Yep.
Unfortunate.
Things have really gotten away from them too, and I don't know what the answer is now that we're 19 minutes in for a 6-0-2 Pele, who has the Magai's cloak too, so even CC is a less viable option up against her, now working on that lifesteal, likely to be Soul Eater. I mean, it's just gonna be tough to stop.
And a lot of this is morale as well from Space Station Game, and I want to point that out because when you consistently lose, it's so hard. Especially when you get so close most of the time as well, of even getting back into a game, but just keep getting punched every single time. You're like, okay, I'm alive. No, you just consistently getting ripped down over and over again. Morale is a real big factor. Cyno might get a kill here, though.
Nice stun from Zapman, but Cyno has the speed buff. Gives up on the chase, though. I don't think he believes he could catch up and kill Zapman without him getting all the way into the tower.
This is a situation where you just like, as Space Station, you're like, well, I guess we try and hope they do a Fire Giant play and we steal it away. Maybe it's our time to shine at the Fire Giant, you know? They've stole a couple of objectives as well. It's 2 Gold Fury steals worth 1 Fire Giant steal.
2 Gold Fury steals, and you mean the base Gold Fury, is that worth the Fire Giant steal?
Like 2 Gold Fury steals for 1 Fire Giant.
No,
I think
the
that's
Fire
fine.
Giant steal's still better, I think.
You reckon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Fire Giant's really good.
I think 2 Gold Furies and 1 Fire Giant equal out, is where I'm at. I think that's like 50-50.
I guess if with that Fire Giant push you get 0 structures, yeah.
No, because you get the Fire Giant and you will get like a structure or 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Because 2 tier 2 towers is equal to 2 Gold Furies, right?
Yeah, but you're not going to get 2 tier 2s, my shit. It's Christmas Day. Jeff going to taunt Neil, but Neil frontlining very well yet again. Lotus Crowd online for him, so even more protections, even though that Thebes isn't finished just yet. The Fury, well, I'm interested to see how this one plays out, because I think if SK get this Fury, Space Station are going to be on the back foot for a long period of the game. Taking into account, though, Finch, that Space Station are running very similar comp to last game, with the fact andinster's on this on AMC and BaRRa's on the Sol. SSK want to take fights to the jungle. They don't want to fight in Phoenixes and towers.
That's the taunt down now for JeffHindla. Frenzy and the ultimate out from NeilMah. So his team is gassed up and ready to fight andinster yet again. The first one to fall, Belair gobbles up BaRRaCCuDDa to make it 2-0, and he's still not even done yet. Aqua in the 1v1 with Paul has managed to land the stun, but Zapman gets JeffHindla elsewhere. Aegis forced out.
Should get the kill.
Maybe can't grab this one, but now that he's got some range, you feel good about it.
No, Aqua should get it, for
There we
sure. Nice little pickup from him towards the tail end. But if you actually just watch that play back, Aqua and Jeff stood on top of each other, get hit by Terra. Meanwhile, the back line is getting bursted down. Cyno was in the jungle farming, but the carries, andinster and BaRRa, were stood on top of each other and end up getting all-in by Sam for Soccer. And now the tail end of that, Aqua will get the kill. Fury should go the way of SK Gaming.
And absolutely should. Cyno just kind of hit Belair, but not a ton of real kill potential here underneath this tier 1, especially with the turnaround. And so Cyno will give up the ghost even with Defender of Olympus. It's too bad Paul had to dash into the wall in the 1v1 though with Cyno. I think probably if he can dash back, he's fine.
Yeah, but he wants to kill. He's trying to. He wanted to kill.
He
as well.
avoided like the
sickle.
The sickle, yes, is what he was trying to do. Or not Cyno, but Aqua. Yeah, he avoided the sickle, and because of that, he stayed too close to him.
The dash was definitely to avoid the sickle more than to get out of the fight, in my opinion. He wanted to stay and continue boxing, hoping for some support in the grand scheme of things there.
10k to 4k damage now.
It's definitely a good way to end the phase, in my opinion. NA versus NA in terms of pretty much every player, and this is North American. Yep. And then later on this afternoon, we get EU United up against Dignitas, which is an all-EU affair. Horrorwind is almost becoming European. He's getting closer.
There.
Week by week that he survives on that team and becomes more of a member, the more and more he's going to start sounding European, I expect.
I imagine he's probably picking up some of it. He's in there with them so
He's probably
often.
hated himself at this point.
Yeah, I mean, who would? I mean, yeah.
He's got a choice of 4 Europeans around him and an Aussie. Gosh, what a terrible world to live in.
You know, but they're a really good team. That probably makes up for it, as BaRRa might get some revenge with a level 20 Zapman here. Drops the ultimate that keeps him at bay. Lord of the Afterlife in. Zapman finds the solo. BaRRaCCuDDa couldn't get help that time.
Listen, it looked cool, but taking into account Zap does have a 3-level lead over BaRRa.
Yes.
I'm not trying to defend BaRRa there, but in the grand scheme of things,
I agree. It's impressive it was that close.
Yeah, for sure.
But that whole time it was out the chance for him. The Changeling into the Osiris really turned things around, and Zapman got the kill. Couldn't threaten the tier 2 though, which is still some good news for Space Station, though they will lose the Pyromancer.
Did realize my commentary there. It's a very fighting game commentary for the most part.
Because you were like, oh!
That's all it was. I was like, wow, okay.
Man, this has been andinster's game so far. Yeah, it's just been black and white for the most part.
Well, let's see. The big thing with AMC is if you're out of position or you're left on your own, you're going to have a hard time if they can lock you down or stick to you. And Honey tries to make sure you stick to them rather, but it doesn't always help you out on the defensive angle. And now Jack could be in a bit of trouble himself.
That guy's cloak proc there from Samson, keeping the chase on the JeffHindla, who's now been rooted and booted, and certainly in some trouble. Petrified not even used on JeffHindla, who needs it. We'll have some backup here from Cyno in a moment, but it's just not enough. Meanwhile, Cyno realized Jeff can't live. He's just going to leave.
It's a really awkward situation because Space Station are forcing themselves to take these fights in the jungle, try and defend the Fire Giant. But this is played into SK's strength, where they don't want to fight at Phoenixes.
Volcanic Lightning comes out from Sam. Cyno does have the turtle form, but what about the FG? It's been leashed thanks to Aqua's pressure along with BaRRaCCuDDa. Supernova does force Paul to use the Aegis, but Aqua left in the 2v1 makes life pretty difficult. Meanwhile, BaRRaCCuDDa being hunted down.
The main game now is to live as long as you can for the respawn to come through so they can't do Fire Giant.
And keep passing the baton.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's like it's a relay race at this point from Space Station Gaming, trying to make sure the FG doesn't get done. But eventually they're going to get the respawn timer so long that they can't do it anymore.
Andinster trying to get away from Zapman. It's really been Sam that's caused him problems so far, but Zapman collects that kill, even with the Stinger having been used. But as you pointed out, the Fire Giant's still standing. Space Station are already behind. It's not like they're getting, substantively further behind. Yep. Instead, it's better to keep the FG up.
I know Space Station can't even go and farm because the jungle's being stripped away. But minions at left, minions at mid haven't been pressured out again by SK purposefully, in my opinion. They're already level 20 or higher level enough that they don't need to push those minions out. The only reason they want the minions there is when they choose to take objectives, like the tower, like the Phoenixes.
They've done a good job really putting a stranglehold on the Space Station throughout this set. And it's looked like what it's always looked like for Space Station, was that it just takes them a little bit too long to react to stuff, doesn't it? I mean, they finally got to this point where everyone's rotating over to make sure BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't get soloed by Zap, but then SK just forced the issue elsewhere, and they haven't found a way to do it without losing too much on the map. It just, time and time again, it feels like it takes them forever to figure something out.
The story of the year for Space Station was like, they just never found the meta, in my opinion. I think they came into the start of the year, and they played their first few picks of the year with very much last season's meta, or what we saw at Worlds, where everybody else are coming with new and different ways of doing things and update things, and Space Station were playing catch-up from that moment. But every single time you look at Space Station, you think, hey, they've caught up, or yeah, they're finding their own, their own style. Then the meta changes slightly a little bit more, and then they're on the back foot a little bit longer. As Aquarius
gets back interrupted. That means it's time for the fight to start from SK Gaming. Neil hits just about everybody with that ultimate. Supernova from BaRRaCCuDDa is good, but it does not deter BaRRaCCuDDa, who moves in to drop the Volcanic Lightning. Belair's the frontliner now, but Zapman way in the back line has found Cyno to guarantee the 5v4.
I feel like Zap's just trying to stat pad at this point, That's all it seems to me. Trying to get his overall KDA at the end of the year a little bit higher, when he can look back and go, well, at least I had my job. Come on, boys, I'm 7-3-6 now.
Had a phenomenal game so far. None, though, as strong as the game that BaRRaCCuDDa's had. 8-0-9. These are the type of performances that both he and Paul put up pretty regularly in Season 5, and we know these guys are still capable of it. They're showing us here right now. It's the kind of stuff that elevates this team.
And now pressure for the mid lane for SK Gaming as they're going to go for the tier 2 tower. Multiple members of Space Station just trying to get that red buff down and get a bit of fun. BaRRa nearly got caught with that lazy back there, but just in time gets away. The tier 2 tower will fall, and SK may just barrel down mid lane, but what's Zap up to? Is that Zap? No, it's Clone. Okay. I was like, he's stuck on the left-hand side.
Just kind of hanging out with a bird's eye view. Turns out, no, the Morrigan is absolutely here. Stuns out JeffHindla and then falls back. That man's got to be careful taking shots and tower shots like that. He does have the Bumbas, so he'll take a little bit of extra.
I did say Jeff would get a quadra kill today. I didn't mean against him. He was 4 deaths, Quadra against. Close enough. He asked for a win. He didn't want to win,
He
so
said he'd rather get the quadra.
He did. I've let him down.
He's right that at this point the quadra would probably be more valuable.
I've let him down. That's what's happened. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Well, you wrote it. I mean, you can't force it to happen. All you can do is write it.
I mean, sometimes people like to, change the script. I mean, I don't get a choice in it. That's what happens. SSG was supposed to win this MSI, but,
Was that the Changeling ultimate just used from Zapman? It was. He turned into the Athena to go back and make sure BaRRaCCuDDa didn't get pressured out and right. So that must mean they're not looking to fight for a little while. You definitely want Changeling to be available for that.
He's got cooldown reduction in the build, though, a little bit of it anyway, at least in the shoes of focus, too. He'll be able to at least get it back up relatively soon, but also,
90.
it's the other thing he's really worried about. The other thing that he's actually doing there is denying farm. Frustrating factor. Look at the gold difference, and the gold difference is huge because of the item difference between the two. 21,000 gold. That's insane. And when you look at the item situation, pretty much everybody in SK Gaming have 6 items in slot. Space Station, they've barely got 5 in some positions.
Yeah, my man Paul was like, what if I just get kin size.
Sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is.
That's the
Adds
health.
that onto the build. He's also got a Nemean in there. I wonder if this is for Cyno and Andy. Or maybe Cyno and Aqua to try and punch them a little bit when they're sitting on top of them. Well, do you like this one here for the Medusa?
Well, the whole squad, I think that's more than anything. I'm going to say this in the politest terms possible. He's trolling for the most part. Is the best way I can put it. Sure, the extra physical protection will help him out against Aqua and Cyno, but I also think that he's not getting enough player damage because he's having to sit so far back that when the B's passive hits him, he's reflecting that some of that back towards the AMC.
Getting a little bit of damage of his own, maybe through that method. Either way, SK don't seem to be too worried. I think around the 2-minute mark is when we'll see Zapman's ultimate back up since it was 90 seconds. So if there's 2 minutes left on the Fire Giant buff, expect that Changeling to come on out.
And notice how SK now is trying to split the difference a little bit more. This is the first time we get to see them siege Phoenixes straight up. All this while, we've seen them fight in the jungle, but now they're in a full situation where Space Station's like, no, we can't go aggressive anymore. We have to sit the Phoenix. Great taunt from Jeff, though.
I mean, I guess it is. It just kind of caught NeilMah, so now the rest of SK keep on pushing. Now there's a good ultimate, hitting just about everybody. Supernova follows up, though, and Zapman is already quite low, but so is Andy and so is Aqua, and who better to chase than Belair, gobbling him up, catches andinster as well, to force out the Aegis. The knock-up chain was ludicrous. A double kill for Belair, who's had a great game, 5-0 and 11.
If you're just tuning in, AMC in this game, he might be the king of bees, but he doesn't actually fly. He did that. Multiple
Never
times.
hit the ground, right? What a horrible situation for andinster on that one. And that's just really how this whole set has gone for him. It's not been ideal by any means. SK, though, have finally been slowed down. Only 20 more seconds on this FG buff.
All I can hope for is that SSG coming into today, if this was the game on the line, it would have been a different story. And I think, in all honesty, it would have been. SK Gaming have looked fantastic to close out their phase 1 here, though. This is going to be a solid 3-0 performance and give the fans of SK Gaming a high hope going into phase 2.
Nice kill from SMITE, who's 9-0-9, a part of 18 of their kills. Now they're ready to move into the Titan room to try and bring this game to a close. Cyno is done for now as well. They haven't even put that much DPS with the Titan just yet. Now they have it at about half HP. Another ultimate from Neil as well to keep them topped up. But SK, I'm not sure if they're ready to all in just yet.
I don't think they can at the moment, more than anything else. They need a couple of minions with them. Take into account there's no fire minions there. And Paul being at low health is the issue, because he's the one that can really do damage to the Titan.
Definitely need Paul comfortable. Zapman being back in the fight would help too. But JeffHindla has a chance to punish. Two-man taunt, Aqua and Andy are the only follow-up, which means that Belair and Neil are largely fine. SK turn around a little bit, but at this point they should be able to disengage, so they would have pushed back in with Zap.
Yeah, because the Sun After will definitely shut down Aquarius. Good CC chain from SK. They draw Space Station back. Respectfully so towards the fact they couldn't get a kill, but now Andy's flying again.
andinster yet again in some trouble. BaRRaCCuDDa has been looking for him all game long, but it's Zapman who gets the kill. Belair does end up falling, and SK might not be able to finish this up as cleanly as they thought.
Turn into a rank game situation now, and when I say that, it means the game should be over, but then everybody is too busy trying to do other things and thinking about ending the game. SK want, a little bit more time in the sun. It's been a while since they've been able to win and have a smile on their face. I understand it. It makes sense.
Enjoying the dub for a little while, perhaps, but also just a strong defense there from Space Station Gaming, I think. You talked about it. JeffHindla able to find some nice taunts. Aqua able to live through a little bit of damage. Even though andinster was relegated to the fountain for most of that engagement, he did get some damage off too. SK just could not quite close it out without enough minions.
I just think SK played the map a lot better this game. That's where the real factor is, and some of that will be communication. Space Station will be still working on that. With the introduction of Cyno, things will be slightly different than having Ven on that team. And especially when Andy's only just gone back to mid lane as well. There's a lot of factors that SSG have as a crutch excuse, is the way I'm going to put that, because the fans at home, they don't like them as much, but those excuses, but they're real. They exist.
They're very true. And we'll know for sure how much of that was, an actual explanation, and then how much of that was, maybe a bit of a crutch, as you said, towards phase 2, right? If we're halfway through and they look about the same, then they've had enough time, and they still haven't been able to make it up. But it's Space Station who are starting the FG. What's happening here? But SK Gamer here in full force. This does not feel safe at all. Two-man
Get the FG at least! Get the FG at least!
Zapman, that's
Get the FG!
nuts.
Okay.
Space Station do secure the objective, but Zapman started this off on a huge note for the team.
Still worth for SSG getting that FG. I don't think they're going to win the game at all, but at least they secured an objective in the jungle.
I don't know if I would ever use the word worth there, but you have, and I like to support my co-caster.
Think about it in the right string of effects here, John.
Okay.
They were
Here's
pretty
the string
much-
of effects I'm seeing.
Sure. Every objective they went for, they had it stolen. That's
Right.
the first objective
Ah.
they went for that they got. It's an improvement, John.
I see where you're coming from there. This game, though, is over indeed. SK Gaming have cleaned it up. Space Station Gaming really had to go for some kind of shot there because they're down so much, there's no way they're going to win that one heads up. Unfortunately, it does not work out. SK Gaming answer back, and that'll do it for the set 3-0 for the boys in black and pink.
Nice bit of relief on SK's gaming space, and I love the fact that these guys do seem like a full team, SK Gaming. Not in terms of the style, but I just feel like they're very much, their team seems to be a unit, and it's something that they can continue to grow into for the next phase.
Yeah.
Maybe they had a bit of a nosebleed situation with going to Worlds and having such a good performance under the trifecta tag, but the start of this year, I think they've just started to come to a realization that they've got to still put that grind and effort in. Every single year is a different year, and everything changes year on year.
They're our only unchanged team, right, from Season 5? I mean, they played in Season 5, and now here they are fully together. I think Space Station was amongst them and Splice for a little while, but those teams have now both undergone some changes as well. So, really, I mean, this SK roster, clearly they enjoy playing together and being together, and I think you see it in their play a lot of the times and how they're able to react to losses and stay positive.
There is only one thing that I do want to say, and a lot of fans at home are very critical of this, so they feel like people don't care. These guys really care, and even if you don't see it on the screen,
Do you mean
time and time
SK
again,
or all?
everyone?
Everyone, yes,
Everyone.
I agree. 100%.
None of them want to lose. They all hate losing so much that we really don't talk to them on a loss afterwards.
I
Because
refuse to, yes.
you try and give them that little bit of a stay away, because even me, I'll be like polite towards them, and that's unusual for me. I'm not polite.
He's absolutely not. I know. I spend a good amount of time with him. Yeah.
It's true.
But you're exactly right. I mean, it definitely means a lot to every one of these players that are here. I mean, you don't move here across the country, across the ocean sometimes if it's not important to you. And all these players, I think, are absolutely committed. So you know that they're all coming in and giving you their best every time they play. Unfortunately for Space Station, just wasn't enough here. SK grabbed the win, and I'll get it back to the desk.
Thanks a lot, boys. Tom and Tully here to break it down for you. And at the end of the day, the 3-0 to SK. I don't think Space Station Gaming held a lead at all during this match.
No, not
and
at
I
all.
think that's a really telling sign.
Yet again, the two side lanes doing work, Belair and Zapman, but also got to give credit to San Francisco on the Pele, heavily punishing out andinster on the Muzen cob. The aggression from Zapman's Morrigan is just obnoxious. SSG were not prepared for it. The solo kill around 23 minutes was a good look. And this is when andinster was caught out of position yet again, rotating to a team fight. Instead of going the safe way underneath his red buff, he gets punished. Zapman, being aggressive, goes in 1v2. This is one that he survives, forces a team fight around the red buff.
I mean, this is classic Zapman, that over-aggressive Zapman that we used to know, but he's got teammates around him that enables that style of play. I mean, we were sitting there in the green room, and Jormungandr filled in earlier in the week for us here on SMITE, and he's been around SMITE since Season 0. He's one of the old-school guys, and he said to Tully, he's like, you know, this looks like old-school Zapman. And Tully went, yeah.
How many people would go back in there?
Exactly.
Zap is a mad lad, just making the plays happen. Going into Jormungandr, gets one kill. And he could have got out there, but instead he's like, no, I'm going to commit to this kill. I just love the performance from Zap. He knows who to change to. And yet again, going for the Bomba's Mask is what enables him to be this aggressive, utilizing that 35% movement speed despite sacrificing DPS.
And, you know, that's kind of fun because obviously the Bomba's build, you've seen your favorite streamers kind of use it, and it's a fun meme. Everybody's in ranked going a zillion miles an hour. But here I think is the actual application.
It's because of the 6-second duration from her stealth mode. You get a lot of value from that movement speed when you're untargetable. So I think out of all the characters that you can meme and troll with Bomba's Mask, it actually makes the most sense with the Morrigan.
Well, the Morrigan certainly made the sense, and the dollars here for SK Gaming taking the victory here in the last game and the last match. So that'll be a 3-0 for SK. They take the whole damn thing. Like you said, Tully, Belair really standing up on his own 2 feet here in game number 3. Did the same in game number 2. And I think that's really impressive when the solo laner for SK kind of stands out and makes his own plays.
And speaking of Zapman as well, he kept his team further and further ahead, around that 15.5-minute mark where he goes in and he steals the Gold Fury from Space Station Gaming. Just when Space Station Gaming are looking for a play from a distance, the Dark Omen, it just steals it.
Oh man.
Wow.
It's not a good feeling.
definitely not. And that wasn't the first time this set. It also happened in the previous game where Belair comes in with a Zhong Kui. SSG couldn't catch a break today. They were heavily outdrafted in game 1 when they last picked the hill. Didn't make any sense, but then heavily outplayed in games 2 and 3.
Now, as we go into midseason invitational, although these teams will not, and then we look beyond it, SK Gaming, are you excited for their second phase, for their second half of the season?
I think this is a good way to end their phase. They can definitely get a lot of value from all of their sets. Just looking back and reflecting what worked, what didn't. That 0-3 loss against PK, I'm sure they got a lot of information out of that one. The 2-3 loss against Dignitas, there's so much footage that they can look back on. And it's got to be feeling really good for Zapman to have a performance like he did today.
Zapman's going to take it easy. We've got Neil and Paul in the post-game interview.
I have Paul and Neil here, mid laner and support for SK Gaming. First, congratulations off the big win. You guys look great out there today. I want to ask you all, how much of it was a plan for whenever Zapman kind of went in on BaRRa and they brought literally the whole team over to defend? Were you all able to like play around that, or is that something that you were playing to, or was Zap kind of just going in on his own? Talk to us about that.
You go ahead, man.
You know,
I don't even remember that.
Zap just kind of says help every now and then. He's kind of, he Morrigan ults and no one has any idea, and then all of a sudden you hear, can anyone come right lane? You look over, there's an Athena ulting and Erlang there, and we're all just running over trying to help him. Yeah, he knows his limits though, and we're usually around the map whenever he makes a play. Usually makes it for a reason, so usually we're there to back him up.
I was going to say, we've seen that on stream over the years, and he would have been complaining about all of you if he did end up dying there. Congratulations again on the victory, but really, this phase for you guys, how have you felt about your play through the phase, and what has been the major focal points for you guys going into the summer vacation now, I guess, to an extent? Not one that you wanted to necessarily take, but what's the focus for phase 2 from you boys?
I don't know, man. We're just going to try to, like, win, because, like, we didn't make MSI, so I don't know. We're just going to go hard next split, I guess.
I think the big thing is just find some consistency. We have some sets where we look really good against top teams, and we have some sets against teams that I wouldn't consider top teams, and then we struggle.
True.
And I think we've kind of learned that whenever we come into a set, we don't really look at who's across the glass from us, we look at ourselves, right? Because we're the biggest factor about why we're winning or why we're losing. It's more about how we decide to show up, how we decide to play, how our picks are doing. So I think going to next phase is going to be trying to find a bit more consistency and just trying to find the SK who can compete at the top level every single game against teams like Dig rather than the SKs that don't really show up.
And I believe you guys are the only team that's still, the same team from season 5, right? I mean, you all have stayed together across all that time and clearly like playing together. I mean, how much does it help that you all have gotten to this point where you're comfortable and clearly you like enjoy each other's company and inside the game too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all have a really good time. Like you said, we decided to stick together, so obviously our team environment's really good, and that's I think it's a big reason why we are able to adapt and change. I think our picks look pretty different week to week, but I think now that we're all really comfortable with each other and we have a lot of chemistry, I think it's just time to kind of put the pieces together. And I think as well, since we've been together so long, we need to kind of learn how to progress better as a team. So we have a lot of chemistry, but there's a lot of things as well when you have the same team. You have problems because certain players have certain personalities, so maybe someone won't talk so much, or maybe someone doesn't like going in. And you have to kind of break those walls down, even though we've been together for a long time, trying to figure out how to progress as a team.
Last real question for you boys, I want you both to answer as well. Now that we know everybody going to MSI, who's your favourites to win?
Man,
Don't cheat.
maybe
I know who I'm going to say.
Maybe Rival? I don't know, dude. Rival, I guess.
I think Rival has a really good shot winning. They look really strong. You have teams like Dig who started really strong but have been a little bit weaker towards the end. They peaked a little bit earlier, so I think Rival's probably the favorites, but I think a good dark horse team would actually be Splice. They look really good. Yeah. They didn't have a lot of practice going in, and Baskin's obviously a phenomenal player. Everyone on their team is really phenomenal. Cyclone can carry. Roar sets his teammates up really well. Scream's back in the jungle. You never know what that guy's going to do. He's a little bit of a wild card. So I think that they're a really good dark horse, but I think the safe bet is probably Rival.
I agree with you on both counts on that one, too. So good reads on your competition. Again, congratulations, you guys, on your big win. Hopefully you guys can enjoy some of the time off. We're going to be grinding, though, and we look forward to seeing you again in Phase 2.
Awesome. Thank you.